here.
Welcome everybody to our June 6th City Commission work session. The first time that we're all sitting at the dais, so we did start a few minutes late. I apologize, but if you weren't here to watch, we were all trying to figure out our chairs and where do we put our stuff and how do we plug in. So it's been a little bit like Three Stooges, but we got it covered.
And I'm Mo. Three Stooges. And Mo's a smart one.
That's true. That is so true. Mo is the smart one. Anyway, we'll call this meeting to order, and if you'll join me, Jennifer, please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Oh, I see I got my clock and everything. Thank you. I was just going to tell you, Rebecca, where's my clock? And there it is. Okay. So the first item on our agenda is an update presentation from the Dunedin Scottish Arts Foundation. Eric McNeil. Jeff, you're the liaison. Anything to add before we let him go do his thing?
Other than the amazing things that Eric does. No, just we all know, but for the public that may be listening, Eric McNeil is the director of Scottish drumming for Dunedin, which means he's the director of drumming for the middle school, the high school, and the 3 city bands that we have. So not only is he busy with the Scottish Arts Foundation, he's just a busy drummer. But he's also president of the Dunedin Scottish Arts Foundation, which we all know puts on a minimum of 2 signature events in Dunedin, the Celtic Festival and our Highland Games. And so just ask him to come forward this morning and just kind of give us an update on the successes that they had this year.
Awesome.
Thank you, Eric, for joining us.
Thanks, Jeff.
Welcome.
Good morning. I wanted to come before everyone this morning to give you an update on a few of the most recent Highland Games, and also give you a preview of some things that are coming up in the future for the Scottish Arts Foundation. We had an incredibly successful Highland Games this past April, Saturday, April 1st. It was a great day in Highlander Park. The weather cooperated. It was warm, but it was great. I think we had record crowds for our event, and everything really couldn't have gone smoother. We were very fortunate to have been able to, we had a great event on the Friday night with our march down Main Street, and a great kickoff party on Broadway there on Friday, March 31st, and then of course the Highland Games at Highlander Park on Saturday. I do want to thank the City Department of Parks and Rec for all their support, particularly Danielle and Jory, who I know are here. They're awesome. They make putting on that event as easy as it probably could be.
They make every event look wonderful.
They're awesome. So we're very grateful for all their help in the community. The event was fortunate to have made a little bit of money. And as we always do, we return those proceeds back to our community. The Scottish Arts Foundation has been in the process of distributing up to, I think it's almost $60,000 in grants throughout the community. The majority of those, about $10,000 each, goes to the City of Dunedin Pipe Band, the Dunedin High School Band Program, and the Dunedin Middle School Band Program. In addition to which, we wrote checks to several organizations in the community who help us put that event on, including the New World Celts. There were a couple of Boy Scout troops that were involved this year. We had the high school cross-country team, the high school soccer team, the ROTC program at the high school. So it really took the community to help put this event on, and we are very pleased to have been able to support those organizations back financially moving forward. So it was a great day. Next year, the event will be back. We're back the first weekend of April, as we are every year. It'll be April 5th and 6th in 2024, which very appropriately is Tartan Day, the official celebration for Tartan Day in 2024. So we're looking forward again to our parade of tartans, clans, and bagpipes on the Friday night, and then followed by the Highland Games on Saturday, April 6th, 2024. A couple other things just to alert you to. As Jeff mentioned, I'm also involved with the City of Dunedin Pipe Band, and just wanted to let you know that the bands are very active right now. Next weekend, the City of Dunedin Pipe Band is traveling up to Chicago. We are taking 3 bands from the community up there, our grade 4 band, our grade 3 band, and our grade 1 band, to participate in what appears to be the largest Highland Games event for pipe bands in the country this year. There are 48 bands. In comparison, Dunedin had, I think we had 16, 17 pipe bands this year, which was big, so they have 48. And from all over California, Washington, Texas, Northeast, and all over central USA. So we're excited to head up there. We have approximately 75 band members, plus friends, family, and supporters, so quite a large contingent from Dunedin is heading up for quite a large contest next weekend. So we'll keep you posted on how that goes. And then from there, our grade 1 band is traveling up to Ontario in August to return to the North American Championships up there the first weekend of August. It'll be the first time we've been up there since 2019, so we're looking forward to getting back up there. And then, of course, this fall, Saturday, November 18th, will be our next Celtic Festival, again at Highlander Park, and that is also a huge fundraiser for our programs. And it's always a fun time. So anyway, thank you very much.
Jeff, did you have anything else you wanted to add? Because I wanted to say a couple things too.
Yeah, Eric, do you have any indication on numbers for the games this year, attendance?
As in attendance? Well, it's always a fun, a little bit tricky. We suspect, as close as I can tell, we are up about 500 gate attendees from where we were last year, to put us somewhere in the vicinity of 6,000 people that came through the gate, plus other supporters and so on. We reckon the whole event was close to 7,500 to 8,000 people, all said and done. That includes all pipe bands, competitors, athletes, volunteers, parents, mom, dads, the whole thing. So.
Thank you.
I can also tell you that Visit St. Pete Clearwater
has
become a major partner sponsor of our event, which we're very grateful for. Through their partnership, they do a series of studies on who comes to the event and how it goes. And they tell us that the Highland Games brings an economic impact of $8.1 million to the local economy, which is like, wow. But it's pretty cool. There's people who travel in from all over the country to come to the games, which is humbling and cool. So.
Well, and if I can just add to that, being on the board of the TDC, which is the advisory board to Visit St. Pete Clearwater, I knew all along for a long time that this was one of those events. I mean, we have a lot of great events, but I knew this was the one, if we were going to go after something, that this was the one to go after them, you know, participating, and they're giving you, what, 25 grand a year right now?
It is, yeah. We just, at the end of March, we refiled again for next year's event. They keep moving back the deadline.
I know. Every time I see something, I send it off to you.
Yeah. And we've actually qualified for, as the event has grown over the last few years, since we've been involved with them, the event has grown to actually qualify for the next level of funding. So, which is up to $75,000.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Is that the elite events?
Yeah.
Is it an elite event?
Yeah, and so this is
We'll
really
see.
good news, because they see the value in the people coming in to spend the night and travel here, which is, you know, heads and beds. That's what they're looking for, which is a little bit different than what we do with Wine to the Blues or Mardi Gras or something like that. You know, we have dedicated people that are coming here, and from all over the world in some cases. So I'm so glad that the city was able to assist, you know, in Parks and Rec. I know Vince has helped with all of that, and I appreciate that. I just want to let you know, I'm sure Jeff has let you know this stuff, but our provost from Sterling has agreed to come.
Yes.
For April.
Yep, I did.
So I certainly hope you will honor him with Chieftain of the Day or a special guest or something.
We are looking forward to having them, yep.
Okay. And then we also approved in our budget the trip to Glasgow next August.
Which is great, because that's when the pipe band is planning to return next August.
So,
that'll be really cool.
you know, and our mission of going not only to support our sister city Sterling, But our main mission of going this time is to see you and to support your bands and to support the competition because we feel like that's really, really important. And I don't think that's ever been done. And we're looking at bringing a whole busload of people. The Chamber's is getting involved.
That's awesome.
So local businesses. So I think this is, so we'll have to figure out how do we get hooked up with you guys.
Yep.
Even though I know you'll be busy, we don't want to
It
mess
will
with
be,
your
but
practice.
I think that's really cool and an opportunity there to do something special, so.
Yeah, so we're really excited, and thank you for the great representation
Thanks,
that you
Julie.
give our community. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
First historic presentation in our new city hall, though, isn't it?
I know,
So,
there you go.
You're part of history now.
As
Eric.
it should be.
That's right, that's right. Okay, now we'll move on to citizen input. Anybody wishing to come forward and speak to any item that is not already on the agenda, please feel free to do so. Seeing or hearing none. Eric, you can stick around, but you don't have to. You won't hurt our feelings if you want to scoot right out of here. Jory, thank
Jory
you.
and Danielle are leaving, too.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
I
They want
know.
to stay.
Well, you know, people are so polite, they don't want to get up, and I just like to give them the permission to go ahead and get out. All right, we'll move on to consent agenda. We have the approval of the minutes for May 2nd and May 4th, board and committee appointments for Hammock, Marina, and Parks and Rec, and we have the Pinellas Public Library Cooperative Renewal. And then we have the interlocal agreement with Pinellas County for disaster debris-related services. We have the award of the Destination Branding Marketing Services, and the small matching grant for our Historic Resources Survey Phase 2. Are there any items to be pulled?
Mayor, can we pull 2E, please?
Was that your two?
2D for me.
Okay, 2D is the county debris disaster removal, and 2E is the marketing thing. Okay, I was going to pull that one too, Jeff, so we're on the same page. All right, so can I have a motion to approve everything except the interlocal agreement for disaster debris removal and the marketing branding contract?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Franny and Commissioner Gao, thank you. All in, oh, sorry. Anybody from the public wish to speak to these items that we're approving? Seeing or hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. And then we'll go back to the debris removal. Did you just have a question, or did you
Just
want a
a
whole
question.
presentation?
No, just totally a question.
Okay. And I'm
Plus, I
assuming
want to
that
check out our
that's-
system, make sure everything's working, right? I guess it's for,
Here, you come up to the staff table. Just like it is at Old City Hall, everybody.
Great.
Only newer,
no big posts in the way.
right?
Well, and you know what? Let's see if we can figure out how to get them two microphones, because they're always fighting over it.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah, I just noticed it. Go.
Okay, so, yeah, my only question is, I just wanted to clarify, by going into this, the group interlocal agreement for all the debris collection, which I completely support, I just wanted to have it clarified how it works when there's competing interests, and so all of a sudden we need a bunch of removal, but all of a sudden all the removal's happening in Largo or somewhere else. Like, how are they working that to make sure it's fair? It's a fair process.
Do you have that? I'm going to go to Bill
Okay.
for that.
Good
Two
morning.
microphones.
Yeah, two microphones.
Bill Pickram, Solid Waste Division. How the process works with what we're seeking for approval today is to enter an interlocal agreement. We were operating with an agreement in 2017, right before Irma, so we were in the same type of structure. And I could just give you a brief answer to your question from how it's worked before and how it will work again, is that these contractors give us, by entering these agreements, we have access to these 8 different contractors, 5 on the debris collections and removal, and 3 on the monitoring management. We have we have access to those contractors. What they do is they're pre-positioned throughout when the storm is imminent, and that we access them, or we trigger with a notice to proceed to be able to do business with them. The process on the afterwards and the aftermath cleanup is that we have, each morning, we are delegated by, through the county, that X amount of contractors, and they're vying for those loads. These contractors are going around town and they're collecting the debris. And through that, we have the assurance that it takes a lot of coordination, it takes some visibility by the city to be there to ensure that we are beating the drum that we need X amount of contractors in town today to collect debris, and we tell them where to go. So it's the coordination on the aftermath part of it. And it's part of us making sure that, you know what, are they in town? Where are they in town? And that we have a monitoring company that's also overseeing that. When we're not visible, they're speaking on our behalf with the county or in the early morning to make sure that we have contractors deployed.
Sue Bartlett, Public Works. I would like to also add, if the commission approves these and we execute them, it allows us to go to these vendors, to talk to them, and to develop the relationship that where will they be, and can we count on them during this time. Also, debris initially is coordinated through the EOC, through the process, through the county, and having these agreements in place, in advance gives us the opportunity to work on that now and make sure that we have it all laid out and that it's prioritized.
That's great. I mean, obviously, I know where the tragedy would hit or the storm would hit is going to have some priority levels, but you just want to make sure that we're not getting left in the dust, because obviously that's occurred, so thank you.
You're
And
welcome.
don't we have, we have the ability to do separate debris removal as well.
To do,
To do some of our own or contract separately, like we would have that, and then we can augment.
right, and we shouldn't need to, so.
No,
We
but-
can do our own as well.
This gives us more of a power and a
Right.
punch, right? I mean, that's the whole point.
Correct,
You got more money,
cooperative.
and you're not just a little guy that you're a side thought in the middle of a storm. So.
Right.
May I ask a question? Thank you very much. You talked about the allocation. Who is actually, I know this is complicated, but who does that allocation? And what we were concerned about before, in the previous time that we needed to have the folks there, is that they disappeared. And some of them disappeared for more money in other states or other parts of the world. So I guess that was principally the question of how do we make sure or how is that done? So first of all, how is it allocated? You use that word.
Well, through the contract and the interlocal agreement, we are participating in the conditions and terms that the county has laid out, which were those extra attachments we provided. And in those contracts, once they're given a notice to proceed, they have to respond within 12 hours and with a project manager, and then within 24 hours with actual staff on the ground, each of those contracts. So contractually, they're bound. Even though there's no cost now, we enter into these, we issue the notice to proceed, and that is the legal notice for them to participate with us. And one of the vendors did not, bowed out and did not accept these terms, but all of these vendors are committed to providing Pinellas County and the city of Dunedin their services.
I read through it
Contractually.
and I didn't see where the actual price was. Of course, that's in the county. And I also didn't see that sort of guarantee. As one of the questions previously was, what happens if another area is really, really hit? They go there and they start working on that, and they run out of folks, and there we sit. I guess that was the principal question that was being asked. So how do we know that won't, is there any way we know that won't happen, or?
Other than there's a contract that states and actually dictates in these contracts how many crews they will be providing, how many monitors. I mean, it's very specific. The additional supplemental contract, which is the original conditions that we are entering into with a participation agreement, state that they will be here, and they're agreeing to that by having them executed in advance. They're legally bound to help clear debris. And in the county contract too, in each one of those, there's a payment sheet or payment schedule that assures us what the prices will be. And then the county has a cap, which is pretty high in each one, and it's distributed that, you can see the amounts are different, and that's how the work is distributed based on the needs and in the different communities that are participating. So the county has established this allocation.
So for my own head, and everybody else has to decide how they heard this, but the county is, the EOC at the county is actually going to be distributing the allocations per who's ever signed up on this agreement.
Well, it is already allocated in the contract. Those services are available to us. What happens during an event is always we coordinate through EOC for support services, so they won't get into the specifics. They will want to know how much do we have and help us all prioritize as a county which areas were hardest hit. They will do that, but we will all have the service available because we're all, if the storm hits us, it's going to hit all of us.
So you can imagine us up here, we all want for Dunedin, and if I'm in Largo, I want all for Largo. So that's why we're asking the question.
Right, and that's why there's 5 contractors for debris removal and collection, and 3 contractors for monitoring and management of those sites.
Jennifer?
Yeah, we're actually
Yes.
running a hurricane drill right now. And you can see all the emails that you're getting, and we work to a great extent with the county through the web EOC during the course of a real event, and also during the course of this drill that we're running right now to allocate all of the resources to the proper areas. And so it really does become, in joining the co-op, it becomes a united effort through the county EOC, as well as a lot of coordination within our own EOC to.
And I would say too, I mean, did we have this agreement when Irma?
We did, yes.
We did.
Yeah.
So during Irma, we had the same agreement. I think what he's trying to,
The problem with Irma, though,
Yeah, thank
if
you.
I may, the problem with Irma, and this is not a mistake we're going to make again, is that the laydown site that we had was a distance away because we didn't want to damage our own soccer fields, and we didn't want to, so we're actually hauling the debris a distance. We're not going to do that again this time because the debris haulers, in that case, then, they would stay closer to home, where the job is a little bit easier and they can carry out more debris instead of making a long trip to and forth. So we won't do that again. And in that case, and having been through Category 5 hurricanes myself, there is definitely a systemic issue as far as allocation of resources because, of course, everybody wants that chainsaw and everybody wants the claw truck there immediately. But as I said, it is a matter of coordinating through the web EOC and with other county agencies. We were not hit as bad as other part of the counties during the course of Irma, and that's the fact, and that's why it took a little bit longer. Our residents were definitely uncomfortable because they had debris by the curb, but they had electricity and they had water and those
well,
types
some
of
of you
things.
did.
Well, everybody but the mayor. But, you know, in this case,
I think I
though,
was like the last person to get electricity back.
right, and what I'm saying,
That's
though,
fine.
is that this is really the subject of a great deal of coordination and to allocate all of those resources, but it really does depend upon who is hit the hardest as far as who gets the resources.
Mayor, if I may?
Sure.
Maybe to help address some of the concerns and elaborate on what the city manager has indicated, Jorge Quintas, deputy city manager. What you may recall is during Irma, we had public services and solid waste staff team up and assist and to address some of the concerns. You know, these companies, they want to deal in volume. They want to make as much money as they can on the trips. And what our staff did is, a lot of times female only reimburses you to touch the waste once. So we made a conscious decision to utilize our own staff to try to stockpile the material so that when they came into town, they could get as much volume as possible on that trip so that they could make it more economically feasible and more attractive to come serve Dunedin versus maybe another municipality that wasn't doing that. So if that's the case, we'll do that again.
Yeah.
Anything else from everybody?
Well,
Okay.
The only thing I'll say, I mean, it's the classic example of something we should be coordinating on.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we are. I mean, it's, you know, that's the whole point, so thank you.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Franny and Commissioner Walker? All right, anybody from the public wish to speak to this item? Seeing or hearing none? Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right. The Destination Branding Marketing Services. Jeff, did you just have a question, or did you want a full presentation?
I don't know about a full presentation, but if Sue could just talk about it a little bit. And just to frame on why I pulled it, is out of concern of Dunedin's own success. And again, this year, not a surprise to anybody up here, that, for instance, Caladesi Island is voted number 4, right?
Say it
And so,
again. I'm sorry, say that again. I didn't hear.
Caladesi Island is voted number 4
gotcha.
beach. And so it's just all the wonderful things that happen in Dunedin. And we've got Visit St. Pete Clearwater, we have Visit Dunedin, we've got all this marketing and promotion, and all that brings to our success elevated housing prices, and we have an affordable housing issue, and we're starting to push out our own residents. And I understand what this is all about, but if you could kind of talk about this and kind of share any concerns you might have that might mitigate my concerns or the residents' concerns on that.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Commissioner Gao, for that question. It's a good question. Sue Burness, Director of Communications, and this RFP really initiated from the work we were doing as we moved out of the pandemic with what we call now the Alliance. And that Alliance is the Chamber of Commerce, the DDMA, and the Visit Dunedin, and the City of Dunedin. And what we recognized early on is that there's a lot of fragmentation, and our brand is very fragmented as well. And everyone is marketing. Actually, the city doesn't necessarily designate money toward marketing, but those other organizations do. And so why not align our efforts in maximizing really how we tell our story? So this branding is really more of an alignment and a refresh. And what I want to really describe it as, we don't have the foundation of our brand. A brand is not a logo. In fact, the agency that we're recommending out of 13 proposals that we got that were all amazing is not really a tourism. I mean, they work with tourism and municipalities, as I indicated in the information that is provided to the commission, but they are really about place branding, and it's about telling that story. And it is really about identifying the DNA of a community. And if we're not telling that story, others will tell that story, or others will manage that narrative. So this is really about building the foundation of aligning our brand, identifying our brand experience, which we have a logo, which we've modified a little bit because we're more than Honeymoon Island, and they recognize that as well. But we don't have the foundation of what that experience is and what our brand assets should look like. And those could be shared community-wide. Our number one audience who we're focused on with this is our residents. And it's our history, and it's our businesses and their stories, but we're really trying to create the place Dunedin. There will be a marketing plan that will come as part of the deliverables, but the big part of this is really recognizing our brand foundation. What is that brand? What is that story? What are the words we all should be using? What are the stories we should all be telling in alignment? And maybe even coming up with a unified element that every organization can use. It could be the orange, but it will be the same orange. And this will involve a lot of research, a lot of focus groups, all of our stakeholders, and it will really help us focus in terms of what the city's story, our brand, our assets should look like across all organizations. And one of the things I want to share with you is they came in the day before their presentation. We had 13 agencies submit proposals. 4 came in to do in person. They spent the whole day in Dunedin. They went to the History Museum. Oh, Vinny is no longer here. They went to the History Museum and talked to the women volunteering there. They talked to all the shop owners. They heard the things that you said about too much traffic, about too many people, all of that.
Vinny.
Oh, right there he is. And so they recognize that balance of not just marketing for tourism, because the agencies that came to us with those kind of proposals, we didn't even consider. That was not what we were looking for. We were really looking for our foundation of the brand, which really, we have a logo, but we don't have all those. It's so fragmented. They will be doing an audit and trying to guide us in how we tell a unified story.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
If I can just add too, when you say a unified story, we're saying not only is the story from City of Dunedin, but the Chamber of Commerce, and
Correct.
Visit St. Pete,
Correct.
and Visit Dunedin.
Correct.
And
Correct.
the Merchants Association, because they all have methods of communicating with people, and this is the work that gives them all the same thing to go off of, and
Correct.
the same messaging, so everybody's delivering the same messaging. And then ultimately, whatever that, we'll call it a marketing plan at the end,
Right.
is what will guide Visit St. Pete Clearwater and the Chamber when they're putting money into something. These are the things you should be doing, because Visit St. Pete Clearwater is doing something else, and, you know, should it be the television monitors at the airport,
Correct.
right? Or should it be, you know, those low-hanging fruit things, but it's not what 5 people from the City of Dunedin have sat in a room and thought up to spend money on. And this gives them tools also.
Correct.
The people who might do marketing, like Visit St. Pete or Visit Dunedin, their model is to go out and get contributions and sponsorship from the businesses locally. And it's how do we spend that money? So it's not about how we're spending ours. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, I certainly understand it, and I know that this is a topic that this isn't the first time it's come before us.
Yeah.
And we've talked about that, and we've talked about how fragmented the branding is and the messaging is. You used to walk through downtown and
Correct.
there's a billion, everybody's got their own idea of Dunedin and the number of Facebook groups that are out there, and everybody's got their own idea of what it, and so it does need to be corralled. It needs to be come in. I just wanted to put it out there, the
Yeah.
concern of being victims of our own success.
Correct. And that is a very, very valid concern. And it's something, again, the agency already heard in their day that they spent really, doing their research or preliminary research. And we know that as well. And that's why this is really more about place branding and really honing in that DNA. And it's really about alignment. I mean, I personally, and I know Visit Dunedin and the Chamber, all of us, we are really excited about this. We are looking forward to, this is really about the community first. And that was one of the other things that really, really impressed us about this agency, is they put residents first. A lot of the other agencies that submitted proposals put the tourists first, and we knew we didn't want that. So we want the community to be proud of this brand, to embrace this brand. They're going to live the brand, right? I mean, a brand is the experience that everyone who lives here, works here, and visits is about Dunedin. And we've got a great story to tell.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, I have that circled as well. I got the 81,000 circled, of course.
Yes.
You can only imagine. I've had the 100,000 circled before.
Right.
And I wanted to ask you just a quick question about the deliverables. The deliverable is going to include not only the direction, or as you talk about this brand thing, I don't say brand thing, I've been involved heavily in business in this area.
Absolutely. We've talked about it.
Yeah, but the deliverable, and the deliverable is going to include a marketing plan.
They will, yes.
And included in a marketing plan is going to be a communication plan, because that's part of marketing.
I would assume so.
So did they talk about that a little bit? I want to make sure that we don't have an organization that's going around and meeting with groups, which we can do, okay, to get what they wish to have, and then have somebody create a dialogue based on what
Correct.
everybody has told us.
Oh.
Obviously, we have hope, we have high
You've got to
hopes
talk closer, sorry.
that they have, thank you very much, that they have experience in that area, and that we'll get a marketing plan with those elements. Is that?
Absolutely. They are the best at this. Actually, the owner of the agency and the senior director of brand experience both came from another agency that we are all very familiar with. And that was what I thought would be the agency that we would choose. They had been there for a long time. They have worked with so many cities. Community engagement and communication is at the core of this whole process. And I believe in the materials that are presented to the commission in the packet, I think I've highlighted some of those from their presentation as to the phases they go through. So absolutely, communication, community engagement is the core of where you get the final deliverables. So they're very experienced at this.
So we had gone through this sort of before to some degree, and home of Honeymoon Island. Okay, there's all kinds of offshoots you can do off of that, of course. You know, AMF, we make weekends. Okay, now how do you make the weekends? Okay, well, we have the home of Honeymoon Island, and what does that represent?
Right.
And so you have offshoots of that. So if we come out with a plan, we're going to get everyone to agree to it, so to speak.
Correct.
At least organizations, and they're going to focus on that as an organization. It doesn't mean everybody else may or may not focus on that, but the organizations will. So we're speaking.
Correct.
We're speaking one tune out of everyone's mouth.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I have a couple comments.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I'm really glad that you included a Public Relations Advisory Committee member on the assessment. That's great, because it looks like you're getting some great expertise on that committee.
Oh, absolutely.
And
And
that's-
she works for an agency, so
That's
she was a
amazing.
vital member of the selection team.
Because again, you know, yeah, I'm preaching to the choir with the commission, but I mean, obviously, you know, that's why they're there. And if we, that kind of knowledge, to have that, and then, so you get the citizen participation, you get that expertise, it's a win-win. You know, I'm supportive of this measure for a couple of reasons. I just want to kind of put it out there. I think it's a very relatively small amount of money for ensuring coordination of efforts and money in the future. And like you said, we're not really into the marketing business dollars, but we are into wanting everything to coordinate well, because otherwise we run into each other, creates a lot of aggravation. That's not Dunedin. So I think it's really thought out. And as someone who worked heavily in our communications area when I used to be on staff years ago, to me, Sue's next level, and I've seen that. You and your staff are really trying to take us to the next level, and I appreciate it. I see it. I've seen the evidence of it. So I have faith that this is a good move for that reason as well. And I guess, you know, you made a comment with like Tourist Development Council. They're giving money now to Highland Games. We're going to do Highland Games. We've done it forever. We're going to do it forever. If we can get money to help us with that, which helps our students, which helps our pipe bands, that's what, you know, aligning ourselves can do. So I think it's smart money. And then, you know, years ago, 20 plus years, the Tampa Bay Times did a thing where they wanted Dunedin citizens to give one phrase that they thought of for Dunedin. And it was the most heartwarming article I ever read. Just phrase after phrase of phrase about heart feelings of what Dunedin residents felt about Dunedin. Dunedin residents are proud of their story. When we did Centennial back in 1999, they were out of the woodwork. It was the most bonding year of one of, you know, best experiences of my career. But Dunedin residents are proud of their story. And I think that anything we can do to kind of cement that, it bonds us as a community, it makes us work more together, and I think it's really smart money. So appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner, anything? Yeah?
Yeah, as you've discussed, brand alignment is a very important aspect of really, because the power and the reputation of the brand really influences the power and reputation of the community. And I think in terms of everything we are trying to do with Visit Clearwater St. Pete and all the other aspects, I think this is extremely important because you can see it, the brand is fragmented, and to your point. And I also will say that you had me. If we don't tell the story, someone else will. So I applaud your effort, and having done this in a prior life, I will say that what we are getting for what we are spending is tremendous.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree with everything. I totally understand Commissioner Gall's concerns. I think this is balanced. Being the liaison to Visit St. Pete Clearwater, I'm watching what they're doing in all different cities. And I'm sure just because I don't have a permanent seat on that board, so I'm sure my presence influences how much they're spending time promoting our community. But I also think it's naturally been happening because of who we are. And I want to make sure that when they're telling our story, they're telling the story that we want them to tell. And I'm not saying I've seen evidence that they're not in any way. But what I like, what really excites me is that, and I'm, without having to say anything, I know my colleagues understand what I'm saying. The merchants, the chamber, and Visit Dunedin are aligned. And that doesn't always happen. And they're aligned on this. And they can see how we can move forward, which is something that we've all been, but I know I have been working on for, 15 years, trying to get everybody to see. And if there is this, after the brand is aligned and tagline or whatever, and then there is this marketing plan, then they, along with Sue, can meet with this 3 to 5 year marketing plan and sit and determine, okay, how are we going to raise the money for this? So our contribution is the marketing plan. Their contribution is to go out and get the money for it. And how they're going to work together, and maybe some of those things will be handled by the chamber, and some will be handled by Visit Dunedin, and some will be handled by the Merchants Association. We don't know, but the fact that the three of them are totally aligned on this plan that will come out of it will continue to bring them together. And imagine how much money they can raise by being able to put a professional plan out there, because they're going to do a plan one way or another. So you've got a professional organization putting the plan together versus, what somebody from the chamber and the merchants and Visit Dunedin want to fight about. So it's a uniter, not meant to be a divider, which is really good. And, I'll look back at Bob. Bob, you don't have to do anything, don't panic. But I remember when we did our first branding exercise. And our tagline, besides Home of Honeymoon Island, was Life Done Our Way. And we never really took the crossover from the logo to the actual brand. We never did it. I did it all over my social media. I still do it. But we never really took it to that step. And the only thing I will say is that when we did that whole brand experience back then, the biggest thing we heard from our residents is, why did we hire a company to do this? We've got great people, and what's wrong with Delightful Dunedin? We heard a lot of complaining about that. We've got all these artists and creative souls in our community that can help with who we are. So I'm glad to hear about the public participation. Just keep that in mind, because we got hammered over that. And that's not to say we won't be Delightful Dunedin. I love Delightful Dunedin.
We all do.
So let's not lose sight of what we all know, and having people.
And that will all be such valuable insights for them as they get started. And they're going to be meeting with the internal stakeholders first, which obviously is
Yeah.
all of us.
And,
So-
and I did take the opportunity to reach out to Ann, the chair, who's on your PrAC committee, but also the chair of Visit Dunedin. And of course, she's in the advertising marketing world, not to the degree your other member of PrAC is. But, you know, I just asked her how she felt, because she's going to have to be the one going out to sell this stuff, to get sponsorships, or at least her and her board. And she said she was very happy about it, very happy. So, anybody from the public wish to come forward and speak to this item? Jennifer, anything to add?
No, I'm really excited. Sue's been working really hard on this, and she's, just in the conversations that we've had, I think that this is,
I'm
like
very
you said,
excited
gonna bring us to
about
the
it.
next level.
It is, and it's something we've been trying to get done for so long, and ARPA funds are paying for this.
Yes.
Correct.
Which is good. And again, this is one of those things that the return on investment is almost invaluable. It really is, and this is where you put a little money forward, and the returns later, which is kind of what you were saying, Rob. You know, the unity just between those organizations, but for our residents with the same message. So all good. Okay, yes,
I
ma'am.
did want to say, because I can't see Commissioner Gauss much, so of course it doesn't like come to my head.
And
but
that
I
is a shame, because everybody should.
Did you need a picture? We can get you a picture. I saw them. I saw them.
Well, yeah, maybe that's what I'll do. I'll
Yeah,
put a little,
well, maybe
uh,
on our
funny.
screens, we need to see who's talking.
No, I did want to give a nod to you bringing up that question because it's valid. You know, even as proud as we are of the Southern Living article and all that, some people are like, shut up, the secret, can't we get back to this? So, I mean, it is a valid question. People ask it all the time, so I think it's, you know, getting it right out there is
Yeah,
important.
it definitely is. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Can we take a break maybe? I got a computer problem.
Yeah.
This one right next.
Yeah, as soon as we're,
Why don't we take a break right here?
Wherever you wish.
Okay.
okay, can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Walker and Vice Mayor Twonga, thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much, Sue.
Thank you.
I've got to have a clock. Okay. All right, let me do the action items, and then we'll take before we go to the workshop, all right, so we move on to action items. We have the award of bid for the Main Street sidewalk improvements. Robert?
Yes, Mayor, Commissioner.
Welcome.
Lawrence, Economic Development Director, with team creating a sense of place for Dunedin. This is a streetscape initiative, sidewalk improvement by Constantino. This runs on the south side of Main Street, from the trail down to Douglas around the corner. This will take care of a non-compliant ADA sidewalk, along with a streetscape, adding some very nice shade trees.
This is not on? No, great. All right.
Can you please start over, Mr. Ensign?
Sure, I can do a redo.
I'm kidding.
I thought it was on.
No,
Anyway.
I think you need to start over. I think you do need to on this one. I think you just got to, I think it's important.
Okay, it's a bid award for streetscape improvement along the south side of Main Street by Constantina there, running from the trail down to Douglas, around the corner where Skips is. This includes taking care of a non-compliant ADA sidewalk, along with landscaping, some very nice shade trees as part of that Ready for 100 and resiliency. We want to add some shade trees to the downtown. We've heard that over a period of time. Let's see how we get more shade. This will do it. This project would start just after the 4th of July. We're looking at July 5th. It would run about 90 days for substantial completion, 120 days to be finished. We've met with all the property owners along this section. They're all very excited. We're going to do this during the rather slower season for the city. We try to do these projects in the summer. We want to make sure that we're out of there before November, and this would do it. The contractor, Clute, has done very successful projects for us, and we have the funding for it. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, questions? Any questions, Vice Mayor?
I do, thank you.
Sure.
I have a big circle around a figure that is 600 and, wow.
Yes.
So There's two things that I noted about that. Number one was we went out for bid, and we had two folks respond. Fortunately, you know, the one that you're recommending is we're familiar with them. They've done a good job in the county. They've done a good job for us in the past. But that's just a lot of money for a sidewalk that goes from Douglas to the trail. And we lose 2 parking spots.
Well, it's not just a sidewalk, though, is it?
Yeah, it encompasses more than the sidewalk. There's severe grade challenges in there between the threshold of the buildings going down to the actual parking area. All of that will have to be brought up, new curb. We're also going to have to rip up some asphalt on the parking lot, replace that. So it's actually a pretty comprehensive initiative. It isn't just laying down a sidewalk, which I could see, you know, at first glance. There's much more to it, and that's why this project is costing what it is.
Yeah, so my question was there another way of doing this? Is there another alternative way of doing this? That's a lot of money. That's just a lot.
No question. We looked at value engineering. We looked at various opportunities with design. We've met with the consultant several times. Because of the grade changes that are out there, that's what's driving this project. It isn't just laying down a brick sidewalk. It's changing grades where the street is, where the curb is. It's looking at drainage. There was a lot involved with it, and that's why it entails that cost there, about $647,000.
Big number.
These all projects today, as you have seen, you know, as a commission, and we have seen as staff, are all coming in pretty strong with the contractor, current environment, supply materials, and so on and so forth. But it is a very comprehensive project. It is not just putting down brick pavers by any means.
And it needs to be done now.
Basically in place right now is a non-compliant ADA sidewalk. I would not look to defer this based on the situation that is there today. You know, we are known as a highly walkable community. This will certainly go ahead and strengthen that. And to keep it in place the way it is today is just not really doing justice for the downtown.
And you found no other way of accomplishing that?
No. The grades are severe in there. They're quite challenging.
So, City Manager, I just add my concern for that and ongoing bids as we're looking at things, particularly with the change with the way they are today and with the way the bids are coming in, and at least going forward. I just wanted to make that point. I'm not attempting to jump on you. I realize that you, I assume on the value engineering that you looked at what you could do and you feel compelled that we do this, and there's really no other way of doing it. I'm going to say, well, then there that is at this point in time. But I think going forward, we need to really be careful about this stuff. No,
I understand. Vice Mayor, when we met with the city manager, Jennifer, the first thing she asked me is this elective? You know, to me and to the project manager, Doug Hutchins. Those were the first words out. You know, is this elective? And we certainly said it's not, because of the non-compliant ADA issue that's out there today. So this isn't just a warm fuzzy, it's a lot more comprehensive. And unfortunately, with the environment today, with the contracting environment and supplying materials, these are what the projects are costing. And I know as the commission staff, we were seeing this. I don't see anything, in my opinion, changing in the next 6 months or 9 months, even a year. I think we're going to continue to have a very strong environment on these projects for cost. But I certainly understand what you're saying.
Had to ask.
Well, of course, no. Listen, if there was a better way to do it, we did look at it numerous times, and it's you know, God bless my dad who's gone. He was an engineer and surveyor, and I remember doing a lot of surveying with him. He said, son, there's always grades. You know, grades dictate a lot on what they do with the design, and it's very hard to overcome the grade issue, and that's kind of what we have here.
Thank you.
My father talked about grades too, but it was entirely different.
yeah. I'm sure they were.
Family of educators.
There you go.
Jeff and I didn't make a lot of money off of that deal, did we?
We did not.
I didn't like surveying with him when I was young, I can tell you that.
Bob, what is the difference between brick and pavers, just in general?
Well, we currently have downtown is pavers, but they're concrete pavers. So it's a concrete with a color, of course. Real brick is a clay brick, which you see on Wood Street or some of the streets is clay. Pretty good cost differential in there. And of course, our downtown is currently made with concrete pavers, so we want to keep it uniform.
Okay, so we're going with concrete pavers.
Yeah,
for
similar,
this, because
yeah.
it says brick paver replacement.
They're brick, they are, they're brick pavers, they're just, I thought you were asking for a distinction.
And I was.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the concrete pavers, we did the area by the First United Methodist Church. If you look at that, that's kind of our new style. It's much wider. The color is really, really good. That's going to be what we're going to use here too. So over time, we're going to replace with a new concrete paver. It is not a clay brick. So if that's the distinction you were asking.
And you're talking about replacing here, not replacing the concrete pavers by the church that we just
No,
did.
the church is just
Those
new.
are done.
No, church is new, and it looks good. It looks real good.
Because I know that there's also concrete sidewalks.
Yeah.
Downtown, and so just for the public, that this is also, maybe back to a branding issue, right? We're trying to make everything uniform downtown.
I think that's very important.
And moving more towards a brick concept.
Just so you, most of what we have downtown is brick pavers, which is concrete brick pavers.
Okay.
So this is a replacement of a concrete paver with a new concrete paver. Am I coming across okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah, it took me a minute. You
Sorry,
should,
no,
you
I
should
got
just leave the word brick out of it. That's what's confusing,
Okay. All right. Okay.
as brick coloring.
You're doing good, Bob.
Okay. All right, the boss told me that's good. Yeah, no, this is going to be nice. When this is done, you know, frankly, the area there, not only non-ADA compliant, it is dated, it is tired, it is a narrow sidewalk, it's not walkable, it doesn't really fit in with what we're looking to do downtown. This is an initiative that's in our CRA master plan. These are the things that we hold that are our core. Walkability, make sure everything's handicap accessible. Yes, shade, landscaping, ability for electrical outlets for different lights and things for special events. This is what this whole thing will
your
encompass.
lights.
And you're going to see a huge difference when this project is done. This happens to be really, this area is frankly ground zero in our downtown.
It is.
And of course, we have the property across the street, which is the Ocean Optics. You know, that piece will also start to come into play. These are key moments, in my opinion, in the downtown. God, I guess I'm selling this, huh? Sorry, I didn't mean to.
That's your job.
No, you're more than I've
Okay.
ever heard you say.
All right,
Yeah.
well,
Commissioner Franny?
yeah, no, I try to be fact-based, you know.
So if anybody wants to see brick, go to Santa Barbara Drive right now. There's a ton of it out of the ground right now.
Yes,
Um,
yes, yes,
Two
yes,
bricks?
Commissioner.
Brick,
It's a
brick?
war zone, trust me. It's interesting, so you guys should, for the expense of the project, you should take a visit.
Go
out
check
there.
it
It's
out.
quite interesting, the project that's going on. That being said, Bob, was this approved by the CRA?
Yes, the
Yeah.
CRA advisory, yes, looked at it. and
Right,
way
but
behind.
as us as the CRA, did we have to approve it or no? Because it's CRA money, right?
It's CRA, that's what you're doing today. And
Okay,
there's a
so
budget amendment
We don't
there
have to
too.
sit as CRA or,
Yes.
okay, cool.
Did you say yes, we have to sit as the CRA? You just said
Right, I
yes.
thought.
No, I mean, in the past, no, I don't believe so. We have not done that.
Well, yeah, we never do that.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I
We
know we've
approved the
talked about
budget,
it. I was just asking
which
that
the
formality.
project is, let's just double check
Yeah.
with Jennifer Cowan down there.
I mean, past history.
When there are projects with, hang on, when there are projects with the CRA that are getting approved, do those approvals have to go to the CRA advisory, us as a CRA first?
Us as sitting as the CRA board.
Have you already approved the project as the CRA, and then this is just the award of the contract making that project happen?
We've approved the budget where this project is in there.
We've seen this
Yes,
before.
as the
I mean, this
CRA.
isn't a surprise.
Yes.
So all this is doing is basically taking a project that you've approved in the budget as a CRA and then awarding a bid,
Okay.
as I understand it.
Yes.
So-
Gotcha.
so yes, that
Yes.
is-
Yeah, I was going to say, we actually
Right.
don't ever have those things as a CRA.
Well, I wanted to speak correctly because I really don't have any questions because we've talked about this within our,
Yes.
within the CRA meetings. And so it's not a surprise. You know, for me, I think this is, and this is certainly the drum I've been pounding, which is first things first. Maintaining what we have is first over new things. And I think we can, and especially in our downtown, when it starts to look tired, which we know some areas are, you know, we've got to be on top of that because that's important. Because again, when you go back to brand, it doesn't take long for you to become, oh, it looks tired and old, don't bother going to Dunedin, or even as residents, you start to feel like, hey, come on, what are we doing? So I think, again, this is exactly what I expect, as in charge of the CRA area, to be on top of, keeping it up. And I think this is important. And of course, you add to it the ADA issue, and it just becomes even more important. So, it's a lot of money, but again, it's focused on, to me, a kind of a core value, keeping things up in the downtown and making sure we're ADA accessible, we're inclusive to everybody. If we're walkable for everybody. And if it's an ADA issue, we need to take care of it.
Your microphone. Jennifer's, sorry.
Oh.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
Yeah, this is, if I may, this is our core. Remember, too, we report to Pinellas County every year. And these are things that are international plan, infrastructure oriented. And that's really the focus for a CRA is infrastructure. And that's what this entails. So.
Now, I think we all hate losing any parking because it's such an issue. But,
Understand.
Again, sometimes you have to, so.
We were trying to address the resiliency and the shade component within our downtown environment, so that was the other part of it. And we're going to have 3 nice oak trees here. 2 islands, one by Skips, one by GW Salon, and then the 2 spaces in the middle of Main Street. It's going to be a nice looking project here at the core.
So my question's been asked, can I comment?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, so first of all, I share Vice Mayor Tornga's concern about the cost of this. But for me, the justification is the ADA compliancy, the walkability, and adherence to our core values. And I also applaud your efforts to make sure, to address the timing of this. So I think, it is a lot of money, but I feel this is absolutely within the direction we need to be going, so.
Yeah, if I may, I'm sitting here, of course, is you have to remember with this project, the county's paying almost half of this project, okay? So the county is contributing, actually a little more, 56% toward this project. So if that, I just wanted to mention that. So we're partners with the county on this project, really. So almost getting really a 50% grant on this in some ways. So you can look at it in that fashion also. Okay.
Okay. I don't have any, well, maybe I do have a question. So you feel comfortable with the new colored concrete pavers that we're using at the church, that we used at the church to then continue with? Because, and let me tell you why I'm asking, because obviously we've seen what's happened with the older version, it's faded. Whereas real brick wouldn't be fading. So you feel comfortable?
I do. The lifespan for that is fairly long.
Okay.
Looking at 25, 30, well, that thing's been down probably at least 25 years, not more. So yes, I am comfortable with it. The cost differential would have drove it up even higher. And I think First United Methodist Church area there looks pretty good. So yes, I'm comfortable.
Okay, and then there is one more question. When we approved the budget, was this the amount that was in the budget?
Yeah, we had funding for the project, yes. We had, it spanned actually to 2 years.
Right, but I mean,
yes.
How much did we budget?
We had, yes, we had the money in there for that project.
We budgeted 325.
And then we had more, no, I think it was 400, and then we had.
Yeah, it's on the bid.
Oh, is it? Well, okay.
Let me look.
Okay. Oh, okay, yes, Jennifer, the estimate that we had from the consultant, and we had a very long, protracted time with the design, we feel that estimate was
Right,
not.
we're going to have to do a budget amendment.
Yeah, we don't
Yeah,
think.
I see that.
Yes, we don't think
So
the
we're
estimate.
talking, it's about a $200,000 difference. Okay.
We don't think that estimate was,
Gotcha.
Realistic.
And while we hate this and we don't like this, and in general, we don't like to have adjustments, we're living in a world where I don't know how we wouldn't have them.
yeah.
So, okay.
But, Mayor, that was, and I just want to make sure that was kind of my issue, though, with the costs going up. Did the CRA, sitting as a board, have to be a player since the cost went up? And I
see.
I don't know.
I wasn't seeing it that way.
Yeah, and
Go ahead.
so Jennifer, I mean, that's just, I just want to make sure, and that's, you can check on that. I just want to make sure we're being right to the letter of what we're supposed to do, so that's all.
If I may, the other part of that is that this contractor will enter into the contract with the city of Dunedin because we're going to be overseeing the project as well, not the CRA.
Yes, and if I may add too,
But it's still CRA dollars.
this bid, which came in significantly lower than the next bid, was all predicated on them starting July 5th. So we don't really have the opportunity to defer this any further.
No,
so.
trust me, it wouldn't change the vote, in my
Okay.
opinion. I don't think any of us would change our vote, but
Okay.
I just want to make sure we're following like to the letter of what we're supposed to do for the CRA. Because we could easily put a different hat on for a minute here.
Sure.
If we
You know,
had
to make
Well,
sure.
we'd have to advertise that meeting.
Yeah,
so
no,
we
that's
couldn't-
Yeah, no, I mean, I know the second we couldn't,
Right.
but we could, pre-plan, so.
Okay, so what I want to do is open for public comment. Anyone wishing to speak to this project or the bid, please feel free to come forward. Seeing or hearing none, okay, I would like a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Walker, Commissioner Franny. Any other comments? I think you've both given yours.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good.
Any other
Anything else?
comments?
Thank you.
I just want to reiterate, I think the project's great. Love the county partnership aspect, and that really is a good way of looking at it. I understand that the money's gone up, everything has gone up. I assume the ADA committee has discussed this and probably has an opinion, while I didn't see that anywhere. I think that's important, the walkability, the fact that the project's in our master plan. We're doing what we have talked about with all of our master plans, right, Jeff? That we're actually completing our master plans. When we say we're going to do something, we're doing it. And I remember very sincerely Casatina's coming forward and talking to us about providing shade.
That's correct. That's correct.
Under a different subject, not this particular project, but that if there was something to figure out what to invest in, providing shade to lower the temperature for sustainability was a big issue that Tina brought forward. So
That's correct.
this is helping accomplish that, listening to the community members that have businesses in that area. So I'm appreciative of that.
Yeah, if I may, excuse me just for
Sure.
a second, Mayor. You know, we talked about cost. One of the things that's increasing the cost here is we're putting in obviously I'm not the arborist, but we're putting in silva cells where these trees are to allow them to grow. They're not going to be constrained. Silva cells allow the roots, everything to be protected and grow as far as being constrained by asphalt and curbing. That's also driving the cost of the project up.
Sure.
Probably significantly.
I know, because we talked about it for here and
That's correct.
didn't go down that road, I think,
Okay.
but yes,
That's correct.
because of the cost.
The cost
But
is
I think that's
significant.
really smart.
So we are doing something that's probably a little bit more looking forward.
But it's smart. If you really want shade and if you really want to deal with an oak tree, which is huge, you have to do that. So I'm appreciative of thinking in those terms. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. We have the proposed agenda for the 20th. Any recommended changes from anybody? I didn't see anything, so, okay, can I have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Vice Mayor Twarnga and Commissioner Franny, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. We're going to take a little bit of a break, and then we'll come back for our workshop item and informational item.
What was in the
Okay.
city master plan and what is the approved?
Yeah, I know.
Yes.
engineer.
Everybody ready? I love the fact that we have that extra seat down there. How come you get so much space?
Thank you for asking. I'm the clerk.
Well done.
We will call our meeting to order. I have to say that to calm everybody down. Okay, welcome back, everybody. So we originally had a workshop item presentation for the Advantage Pinellas Housing Compact, and that item has been, tabled versus postponed? Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, we don't have a date specific to bring back.
Okay. It is tabled, so we don't have to do because it's a workshop, we don't have to do a vote for that, right? Or do we? Do we need to do a vote to table it?
It's workshop.
Not for workshops, okay. Okey doke.
Let's be more confident in our answers.
All right, so we're going to go to informational items. We have commission discussion, as many of you probably already saw. Commissioner or Vice Mayor Tornga brought 2 items forward, the golf club clubhouse and the Veterans Park. So I will turn over to Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Before I begin talking about a Veterans Park, let me just talk to you just really quick. Does anybody know what today is?
D-Day.
June 6th, D-Day. And oddly enough, not oddly enough, I was in a hotel in Vienna 40 years after this occurred. And I was the only American staying in that hotel. It was one of those classic old ones, and in came 2 buses of veterans. And boy, I got my ears open and had a very interesting time. So what I want to do is I really want to salute all of the families that were involved in that, because a veteran is, well, when you talk about a veteran, it's like talking about a pool of water, and you drop a pebble in it and you get all these waves going out because it affects so many people. It affects the immediate family, it affects friends. If something happens to that veteran, it affects that whole unit. They're all concerned, et cetera. So it's a big thing to do. And I just want to read this. I'm going to read a little part of this. I'll try to skip a little bit of it, but it's the heart to do what others cannot. And it was written by a Colonel Nightingale who was in the Army. He was there. And this is about Lieutenant General James Gavin. He was called the Jumping General because he jumped on that day out of a perfectly good airplane, right along with a whole bunch of other people that were seeking our freedoms. It starts off, it says, Lieutenant General James Gavin looked through the car window on a misty day at the Fiera Bridge. It was June 7, 1984. He needed to talk to the troops of the 82nd Airborne Division who had parachuted in the day before. It was the first time the division had returned to Normandy since June 6, 1944. Despite his frailness of age and the onset of Parkinson's, the sight of the red berets energized him. He grasped his cane, stood up, and strode to the front of the men. No introduction needed. For an hour and a half, talking and walking, he was in command once again, transporting troops back in time to that seemingly insignificant causeway they so desperately needed to cross and defend into a stronghold of entrenched Germans intent on killing every one of them. And he goes on and talks about only the airborne troops could have done this. All of the troops that were there were completely mesmerized. And some of those troops jumped that previous day. They remembered the past, and they remembered the jumping general. And every year since, troops from the United States, France, and NATO converge on Normandy in celebration of the D-Day anniversary. And I'll skip down. And the highlights of the activities, other than huge ceremonies, are the terrain walks. And they walk to terrain. And they get down to the end here, and it says a retired colonel had stood in front of the room as the troops shuffled in. The unmistakable days of an 18-hour trip on a C-130 coming from Fort Bragg and Fort Benning to France to make that jump. It was a good day trip, they call it that, and that's when the troops get some good MREs and they try to find a place to use for the restroom if they can. And as the day went on and they followed the general along, he maneuvered his men as if he were Owens at LaFerre and a number of other generals when they made their attacks. Walking back from his sight, he moved to the front of the men, an exception from his normal positioning, and tugged on the guide's sleeve. They slowed their pace, and watching his eye, the NCO said with clear reverence, "Sir, some stuff happened here." The sergeant and the statement were the residue of what Lieutenant General Gavin imparted so long ago. With one of the attendees in a dark and desperate place remembers what he saw and felt in Normandy. It would give him the heart to do what others cannot, and that's exactly what Gavin intended. Thank you for allowing me to read that.
Thank you.
That's a lead-in to a Veterans Park. And what I'm asking for here is consideration of a Veterans Park. Why now? Why do we do this now? Why wasn't this done before, one could ask. I can't answer that, and if we should have, well, then I could be called guilty of that. So I want to bring it up today. It's history. It's history of us here in Dunedin, where we have a tremendous, tremendous history of the military. And more importantly, or equally importantly, is we have a large number of veterans that do live here. You'll recall we brought an LBT in here, 2015. I'm just holding this up just to show you if you remember this. It talks about, here is a matter of fact, a plaque that's over by Sterling Park on the other side of the street of Alt 19. But that was the LBT that we searched for and brought into here, referencing Dunedin's relationship to veterans. Exactly 8 months after Pearl Harbor, December 7, August 7, we attacked with a full division of the Marine Corps, Guadalcanal. That was our first attack, exactly 8 months after we were attacked at Pearl Harbor with a very voluminous group of people. Who are those people? That was the only battalion that I know of that was formed outside of Quantico, Virginia. They sent 7 officers down to Dunedin. They had this vehicle called an Alligator. They knew they needed something to get across the islands in the Pacific. They knew they didn't have anything, and here was going to be their answer. We had most of those people here. They shipped out of here. Some of them were in Guadalcanal on those vehicles. We had a big, big stake here in Dunedin in the military. That continued for the first couple of parts of the year of the war. We had landing strip out near Sterling Park. That's where the LVTs. There's a lot of history there that can be uncovered of what really took place. You know, we had a big concern about history when it came to the Kellogg's house, and I love the Kellogg's house. You saw how excited we all got about that. As you recall, some of the single troops stayed in the Kellogg house. Some of the single Marine Corps officers stayed there. Again, just a whole lot of history associated with Dunedin. Again, more importantly, we have the veterans that have served. There's a couple different kinds of veterans, and we kind of all put them all together. But we have veterans that got out of the uniform. Those are us's that are here. And again, in Pinellas County, almost 10% of the people seem to have served in the military. Normally, it's only 1 to 2% in a normal location. A park allows us, wherever that park may be, to take the opportunity to create an area where people can recognize that that park is representing veterans. Veterans can then be taken there as family members. Veterans can take themselves there. Veterans can take their friends there, or other people can come there. And they can learn about some history if you wish to place that within the park. This particular area that I'm talking about, I'm not selecting an area, but I'm just suggesting. And the only reason why I'm suggesting this is the same reason why I'm suggesting a veteran park, because people came and stood before us and sent us communications about a veteran park here in Dunedin. Other cities have veterans parks, as we're familiar with. And so we have the VFW, we have the American Legion, and if, for example, we were to have a park down in Sterling, which would be called part of a veterans park or a piece of that, we would have a connection from on the trail, starting at that park, the Sterling Park, if it were there, it goes right on down the trail. We pass by the American Legion, and we pass by the VFW, all on the trail. One of the thoughts we had a number of years ago was to creating a parade. Now I turned it around a little bit. I turned it around for the kids. Let the kids decorate their bikes or whatever they want to decorate, and let them ride up and down the trail, and let the veterans stand there and applaud them. Let the kids learn something about the history of our country, the history of why we are in fact free. They don't necessarily do that at the VFW or at the American Legion for obvious reasons, which include a lot of veterans go in there and they talk about other things and not so much history. Perhaps we could introduce them a little bit more to that in a veterans park. Again, more importantly, a veteran can go in that park. And I don't have to tell you some of the stories about veterans. As you all know, I am a veteran. I served as a Marine Corps officer in Vietnam. Lots of thoughts go on oftentimes, not only about the veterans that are with us, but the veterans that are not with us. And that's, of course, why we have Memorial Day, which is one day. We have Veterans Day, which is one day. But a park like this would allow them to come into the park and allow kids to ask, what's a veteran park? What happens there? Well, we could do some education and educating there. It should really be a park for education, but also a park for the veterans, just to have. Celebrating lives. And we like to always use that word, remember. All gave some, and some gave all. And perhaps an opportunity not only for the history, but remember, we have even gold star mothers that live here. But we have members that live here that lost some dear ones, or know some dear ones, or have that extended family for that drop of the stone in the pond that goes out and touches a lot of people. So I can ask somebody, do you know anybody who was in the Second World War? And they'll say, oh yeah, my uncle's brother was he was stationed over here. So that's how that kind of ramps out like that. I think it would be a great opportunity for us to allow families to share, but also to share walking their dogs. They can take their dogs with them in that park. It's not a dog park, it'd be you walk a dog on a leash, but they would be there, the veteran would be there then with his best friend at that particular moment. The Veterans Park for me is just a matter of time. Not sure why we haven't done it before, but time is sort of here if I read this correctly and if I feel this correctly, and I think I do. So again, I just wanted to ask that we consider that. I know it's been presented before, but I thought it was time that someone just kind of stood up, and if not me, who? Any one of us could have, and so I don't want this just to be me. I mean, I just want to bring this forward to our group here for consideration to have a Veterans Park here in Dunedin.
Okay, so the folks that have come before us Let me see if I can guide the conversation a little bit. Thank you for bringing that forward, and I appreciate your passion there, Vice Mayor. And I know you said it doesn't matter where, you're not particularly saying where it should be, but the folks that have come before us to ask us this, at least from a public perspective, have been referring to Sterling. And I know that, Jennifer, you all are reviewing all of those recommendations and plan to come back to us. I mean, I do think if Sterling is the consideration, if, and I'm saying if, I think we have to look at that in a holistic way to all the things that are being recommended.
Okay.
But when are you planning to, I mean, don't you agree? I mean, we don't want to look at it just in one piece of it.
Yes. Yeah.
So when are you all, sometime this summer, you're coming back, right?
Yeah, and we wanted to come back in June.
Okay.
And it's
We're
not-
in June.
It's not on our workshop calendar at this
Yeah.
point. I'm not quite sure. if
Probably,
we're-
that's why I said sometime this summer, because I
Ready,
know that
yeah.
you're working through some other initiatives and
Yeah,
things.
I mean, there was mention of a stormwater education park
Right.
at Sterling. There was mention of pickleball, the dog park, and also the Veterans Park during the
Right.
public meeting. So if it's to be considered there, then, you know, that's a new direction for us in terms of looking at Sterling Park for a Veterans Park as well.
Well,
So-
I'm assuming, though, that you're looking at all the things that people have brought forward
Yes.
and analyzing what you might recommend. I get this is policy.
Right. And I know there's been
But-
discussion from the Veterans Advisory Committee as well.
Right, and they're not ready to make a
They have not
recommendation.
made a vote.
And they have some concerns as well.
Yes.
So would it be appropriate then, when you come back with the Sterling discussion, I think it's important to bring back where all of our veterans memorials are,
Okay.
because I do think, and again, in total respect for your idea, I think the reason that we haven't moved forward with a total veterans park like you see on Gulf to Bay and Clearwater and other places that they have, is because we've taken it and tried to spread it throughout our community. We do have Purple Heart Park, and I understand that, you know, that's specific. We have the Defending Freedom Arch. We have the area that's in Dunedin Memorial Stadium to the Vietnam folks. You know, we have the memorial at the marina. There is a memorial at the VFW. So, I mean, I think we need to have with the VFW, what you brought forward, the marine amphibian, I want to say that right, the alligator.
LVT.
You know, I just think whatever we're going to do, we've got to look at it holistically. But I think we should, given that that's what the folks had asked for, I think it should come back in that way and then discuss further, because we also have the Gladys Douglas Park that we're trying to get done and all these other little things that we're doing. So, I mean, I think we have to look at it in the big picture.
Okay.
Don't you agree?
Yes.
That doesn't mean we can't have memorials and that kind of thing. I think what you're saying is this is important, let's give it due consideration, you know, but let's look at it in a holistic picture. So,
I'm saying minimally that, and I'm willing to stand up and say, I have no problem leading this, but I'd rather not do that. Well, I don't mind doing that, but I just wanted to pass this along up here, because I think it's time that we do this, and if not now, when? And particularly, there's probably only one really good place to do that, and it probably is Sterling. And enough people talked about that. And I have a closing comment, so
Sure.
you want me to make that now?
well, let me,
Yeah.
yeah,
I'll wait.
go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So my closing comment is most of you know that I've been with Honor Flight for a long time, since it started. So for 11 years here in Pinellas, and we actually cover 10 counties. And we fly World War II veterans, now Korean veterans, and Vietnam veterans and the like, up to Washington, D.C. to see their monuments. So when they return, I'm the MC and the speaker down at the airport. And so just before they come in, I always ask 3 questions. I carry on a little bit of a conversation, but so I ask 3 questions, and I ask them. First question I say, some of you may answer all of these questions, and some may only answer one. And I ask, the first question is, how many of you are here to greet a family member coming back? and there's applause, and it goes like this. Then I ask them, how many of you are here supporting someone that you know that's returning? And then I ask them, how many of you are here supporting all of the veterans and any veteran that's returning? And then it just comes apart. Boom, 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 loud. They're there supporting the veterans. And I think that's a very, very good thing for us to do, for us to have. And I think it certainly justifies us in Dunedin here, with the number of veterans that we do have in Dunedin, to have something like this opportunity for the, perhaps not a very expensive layout, but perhaps allowing them to take the great-grandchildren, I don't know, maybe just grandchildren, maybe a few swings, something very simple. But I just propose that, and I think it's time. Thank you.
Okay, so
Mayor?
I'm going to make a suggestion that we, if everybody's okay with this, that we, hold off before making any decision. Let's see what the Sterling Park recommendations are, because I know that it's not even what might be at Sterling, but what some of those options might be better suited somewhere else. I know all of that's being looked at, and let's get that under our belt, because that's really when we're going to have that conversation. And then as we're having that conversation, we can discuss whether we agree with you as your recommendation, or we want to see something different, or whether it can be somewhere else.
Mayor, Vince Gizzi, Parks and Recreation Director. At the June meeting of Veterans Military Advisory Committee, which is this next Wednesday, we will be talking about putting this item on for the July meeting, which is the first Wednesday of July for discussion.
You mean Sterling?
Yes. Well, the Veterans Park concept.
Okay.
There's been a couple of smaller groups that have come to that meeting and have talked about it, but the committee has made no recommendation. There was some brief conversation, but there was no formal vote on whether or not that's where we go with Sterling. But at the July 5th meeting, it'll be agended and there'll be discussion.
At their meeting, not
Yes,
ours.
at the Military
Gotcha.
Advisory Committee.
And I think it's important also, I'm assuming you're going to do this, is to bring the list of where all our memorials are, which you should also bring to us when you come to the Sterling.
Yes, we'll do that.
Okay.
So we're going to need to bring the Sterling to you sometime in July. We need to wait for the Veterans Advisory Committee to meet.
Sure.
Right.
Okay, everybody okay with that? Step forward? Yes? Okay. You had another item, Commissioner or Vice Mayor?
I surely do. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you, Vince.
The subject is Golf Club House. I would like to propose that we keep the golf clubhouse open during the work that's going to be done on the golf course. And let me just give you some background on this. That I believe our Dunedin Golf clubhouse is way more than a golf club house.
Bless you.
It's a treasure trove of history, from the development of Dunedin to the support of the World War II efforts. It even relates to the attention that's given to the Kellogg's house and all what happened in that area during that time period, which the club itself represented some of the construction that was going on and the reasons for people to come here. And then there's also the part about the LVT and the LVT's work that it did off the coast there. And the flyers that were there. It's all right there. If you go by there today, you'll see a flag post that signifies that it's the veterans, that's a flag post for the veterans, and it's right on the main drive there, just before you turn into the Sterling Park. And then, of course, across the street, as I pointed out, there's, from the Marine Corps League, is this plaque. But it's just kind of all tying us in. That's just part of it. It's way more than a golf club house. It's open to the public, as others may or sometimes can be. Certainly in a private club, not necessarily, but in a semi-private or in a municipal, certainly open. The people the records show that the people that spend the money in the clubhouse represent about 70% that are not members. There's many people, and I'm not kidding about this. There's many people that don't know that the public can go there. This very morning, this is the part I'm not kidding about, this very morning, a lady in my community said she'd like to go over to the golf club. She planned to go over there today. Could she go there? And I said, well, of course you can, and you'll learn more about that through the communication department as we continue. But most importantly, I said, I got information that says that we're under summer times now, and I don't remember if it's open today, so you have to look it up. And she took out her cell phone. She did look it up. She's going there for lunch today, I guess. The people that the clubhouse there serve are a huge number of people that we have strong relationships with. It starts, and you can list them, there's so many of them, but it starts with a DCO every month, except for a couple months in the summer. We have 2 Rotary clubs. Last year, one of the Rotary clubs celebrated 50 years of like almost every week meeting at our club. This past, not this past Sunday, the Sunday before, I was at what I refer to as I have to be careful, as I refer to a birth to celebration of life activity. And we have a number of those that occur at our clubhouse. And that means there's showers there. Now, I haven't gone to very many of those. Right, Jeff?
Yeah, I've never taken a shower at the club.
Yeah, I mean,
Been there a lot, but shower wasn't one of them.
but so people have showers there, baby showers.
Oh, shower.
Baby showers.
Sorry.
And we
I was like, there's a joke there, but I'm leaving it alone.
Yeah, I know. I'm so sorry. I literally did. You said I haven't taken a shower there. You said that, I thought. That's what I heard. Sorry, I'm so
No
sorry.
problem.
Go. Now I know what you mean.
To a celebration of life.
Yes.
And I just went to a celebration of life a week and a half ago. And it was for a gentleman, and I'll just say his name was Harold. He was a very, very popular person with the marina.
Yeah,
He was a chairperson there. Very, very strong business owner. Really understood business. Very, very strong. He knew more about water than probably anybody in this area. He was a sportsman. Lots of catch and release. Lots of catching and eat. At that celebration of life, the food, as is always, was absolutely delicious. And the folks there serving were the regular folks that served there, and they were absolutely, I'll use the word impeccable, they were just fantastic. And I spent time with, let's just say the wife and the family, and we talked a lot about that. We talked a lot about Harold's recipes for cooking some of the fish, and they had that there. It was just delightful. It was just delicious. All of these years that I've spent associated on or about that club, and you recall that we took a video of that club, Deb and I, and that went into a game called Greens. It was distributed throughout all of Europe because it was a Donald Ross course. And but the clubhouse contains a lot more than just us that play golf may or may not attend to. Some people play golf there and never come in to the clubhouse, hardly ever come into the clubhouse. That's not abnormal. Some of the people hang there a lot. Some of the people don't play a lot of golf there and might hang in there. But again, 70% of the revenue made from the food and beverages is from someplace else or someone else. For me, I would like to see us have a community event here, if we can, and allow the community to watch what happens there as we go through making this a certifiable back to a Donald Ross club. Some will care, some don't care. Some come from Mies Manor for an afternoon or for a lunch. Some come from other communities associated with here. A large amount of them that visit are associated with some of the clubs that I was talking about. Some of those clubs do a magnificent job, not only for fundraising, but for involvement with the folks here in Dunedin or worldwide. And I would like to see us have a better relationship than just tell them go away, and not necessarily in fear that none of them would come back or that some of them might not come back, but I think it's just how we handle them. I think some of these people would really like to watch what's happening there. Now, we can make videos of that, of course, but allow them to come in. It is their house. It's their house. They own it. They own that house. Each one of those members of our community own that house. It's theirs. It's their asset. It being an asset, to close it and just have it sit there, for me, is not a useful asset. If there's some requirements for any staging or anything, I think we could probably figure out how to do that, staging of the equipment, for the redo of the course. But again, we have a great community in there. We have great service that goes on in there. We've got a great crew that's in there. And if need be, we have enough people that could figure out how to establish an organization to take over this. We've got enough business minds around that could help with that, should anybody need us to do that or need anyone to do that. Again, the clubhouse is the people's clubhouse. Let's do what we can do to keep it open as a community asset and make it available to our residents. Food and service is excellent. I'm very proud of it. When I take anybody in there, I am not unproud of our club, of how it looks, how it appears, and I would not be when they're doing the work around the outside. As most of you know, other clubs have shut down. They've shut all the play down, maybe for a short time period or for a long time period. They may keep that clubhouse open the entire time, especially, of course, obviously in a private club. But it's doable, in my opinion, and so let's let our residents have an inside view of this and be part of this, and particularly for the organization that's there. They, in fact, Fairway Estates has their meeting once a month there. Now they're going to go someplace else to have their meeting. We have our Spanish Trails has a meeting that we can find someplace else to go. But again, I think it would be valuable for us to have their involvement in this. We are spending a lot of money on it. It doesn't matter for us where it comes from. It's under our control, and we spend it. And we decide how it gets spent, and we chose to spend it this way. Not necessarily to make it an asset that's going to bring us money. It is going to be an enterprise fund, so it'll be an asset also for our residents, but also an asset for the city as a draw. So, again, my recommendation is figure out how we can leave it open, how we can have it open, and leave the clubhouse open as long as we can and for as much of the time as we can while the course is being developed. Thank you.
Okay, so a couple of things that I want to bring forward on this. So at the May 18th meeting, we did discuss some of this. We did have consensus direction to allow staff to go do their thing, to put their RFP together and bring it back for the restaurateur. The agreement itself, the license agreement, the dates on that agreement were based on at least the club board not managing the restaurant because of their direction that they don't want to do that.
That's correct.
So while the license agreement doesn't speak to the restaurant itself, we did speak to it, and there was at least consensus direction to allow you all to move forward. Commissioner Gao did bring forward the concern about the groups. We did give direction or, suggestion to Vince, Blair, Jennifer, the whole team, coming up with a plan of how do we deal with these groups? How do we communicate with them? Is there some option of dealing with them?
Yeah, like our facility at the health center with one of the
Right.
caterers, something
So,
like that.
yeah, so we did give that direction for them. So I have to bring it back to procedure. And I so appreciate what you're saying, and I think we all heard that, especially when Commissioner Gao brought it up. We can't do a motion to reconsider those dates, okay, because it's not happening in the same meeting that we talked about, so we can't do a motion to reconsider there. So I am under the impression that you all are bringing back the scope of the RFP for the restaurateur, correct?
Correct.
And that's going to be sometime in the next couple of months, over the summer.
Over the summer, we'll work on it.
And you're bringing back the scope, not the award, but the scope, so that we can all see what you're asking out of them. Whether it's marketing, bringing forward a brand, when they would open, and what their capital contribution might be for the inside of the clubhouse, just like we've done with Walt and Glenn and others. So I think that that's probably the appropriate time, because you all are going to talk to these people, you all are going to know whether they even feel like they can keep it open.
Right, and
Because
we're
you
going to
wouldn't want to have
require,
two different people doing it.
we're going to require a walkthrough, too,
Right.
of any.
So I mean, I think for us, the appropriate time then you would bring that back, you would also bring back what you're going to do with the groups, right?
Correct.
Kind of update us on that, how, if you're still recommending it, because right now you're recommending that it's closed.
Correct.
And one quick clarification, I don't want to ruin your, we cannot just us run the restaurant and keep it open, because we don't have a liquor license, correct?
That's correct. We need a
So
partner.
that's not an option.
Correct.
That's just a hurdle. We call that a
Well,
hurdle in business.
but I,
It's not an obstacle.
okay, but I think the direction that I heard and I went back and watched the meeting, knowing we were going to discuss this, the direction I heard from 3 commission members, direction, or at least consensus, I'm going to call it consensus, because it wasn't a vote on the restaurant, but it was definitely consensus, to allow you to go out and figure out what you want to do. This is the direction you've wanted to take. Put together the RFP. We talked about the groups, and you're going to bring that back to us. You could bring it back in a workshop environment, like you could bring it back to us on a Tuesday, and then we would vote on it on a Thursday, so that there's some time there, right? You could do that, and then you would put it out on the street. But you could bring back what your thoughts are on the groups, because we all said that that was a concern. But right now, from a procedural standpoint, under a commission discussion, I'm either adding it to another agenda for us to fully discuss again, or looking for the other opportunity. And the other opportunity is when you bring back, to me, the logical opportunity is when you bring back the scope of the RFP, not the results of the RFP. Jennifer?
Correct. Yes. I mean, we can, when we draft the scope of the RFP, we can require that those walking through or those proposers entertain keeping the restaurant open and what that looks like and whether or not they would or would not. But they would need, like I said, the walkthrough is very important. The staging of the construction is very important, that we have those facts for those who are walking through.
Well, and the investment into the actual clubhouse. How are you going to update
Right.
the clubhouse if the restaurant's open?
Well, and the city commission has not decided yet exactly how much we're going to spend on that.
But it's still
As part of the budget
there.
process, correct.
Jennifer, also, there's going to need to be a transition period from the time that the board stops managing the restaurant, which would be on February 29th, 2024, until the time the new provider comes in and gets settled in. And also, we're going to be expecting there's going to be some improvements, mainly to the kitchen area, by the new provider. They would be looking to see, part of their RFP is going to include some capital contribution. So there's going to be a time where there's a transition. So if the restaurant closes on February 29th, there's going to need some time for that restaurant to reopen again. And I think that, you know, this was the time while the course is under construction that the renovations to the clubhouse could be made if there's commission supports that, and also the contribution from the new provider.
Right, because they're going to put some money into this too, I can only imagine.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean,
It-
that's the negotiation.
Right, the proposal.
That's what you're looking for.
Right, will be a long-term agreement between the
Right.
food and bev provider and the city of Dunedin.
Right, so that they will invest.
Correct. And what we do know from the board and from having walked through the kitchen, and Blair is here, he can speak to this too, is that the kitchen needs to be updated.
Yeah.
It's pretty obsolete. And there's plenty of larger scale, including, I think, the walk-in.
Well, the kitchen
So-
itself, I mean, in case you don't know this, but when they did the update to the clubhouse, what was it, 97 or 98? They kept the majority of the kitchen the same. So when you talk old, it's old.
All right, guys, look, I'm not an authority about this. The highest I've ever been in a restaurant was a dishwasher. But I can tell you, I do not know restaurants, and I do not know how to run a kitchen like that. I can tell you what's coming out of that kitchen. It's beautiful, it's delightful, it's good. Okay, so somehow it's coming out of that. Second of all, regarding what you're talking about here, is if we go out, I have still not seen any plan for what we're doing at the club. I don't know who's going to be charged what for what. I don't know what.
And we are rolling out that plan now. I mean, it's something
understand.
that we're working on. It's a
I
process.
understand. I haven't seen anything, so I
Well,
have no
I mean,
idea.
none of us have. I just
understand.
think that's important
I
for
don't
us
mean
to.
We haven't seen anything yet. We don't
Yeah.
know. Second of all, when you go and establish a restaurant or bring somebody in, I don't have to fail to remind you that they're going to expect to make some money. And that goes on top,
Yes.
okay? So wherever you were, it goes up here. Whereas up till now, however way it's been operating, and we see the numbers. So we can either believe the numbers or not believe the numbers of what the restaurant does and what the costs are of the restaurant. I'm also attending to another issue here, and I'm attending to the issue of all the organizations that use that facility that are now going to go someplace else. And so that's a big concern that I have. And thoughts, and I want to bring that up. A lot of what you're talking about here are, in my personal opinion, are simply hurdles. If we need to overcome them, we can figure out how to overcome them. I can give you 10 people right now that I know that can overcome probably everything you bring up here. They're business guys here right here in Dunedin. Would be volunteers. If you need to figure out, I don't know, if you need to form a new organization, how you transfer what, it's that all of that stuff is doable. I haven't seen anything that's an obstacle yet at this point to leaving it open. So it is our house.
So having said that, Blair, did you want to add something? You look like you wanted to say something.
I'm just on the edge of my seat. Blair Klein, golf operations for the city. I can certainly appreciate the commissioner's hurdles, and I recognize them. We have a large construction project slated to begin at the golf course. We've not discussed in concrete a staging area. The parking lot's the most viable one because it's closest to the front nine and the back nine, and it's also a hard surface for the trucks dropping off the various supplies and the trailers for the contractor that stores all the supplies in the trailers. Also, if we get the concessionaire to come in and they want to make improvements to the kitchen or throughout the clubhouse, because I know everybody looks at the clubhouse with different eyes.
Especially me.
And so we would have the problem of trying to operate a restaurant during construction. I don't think any concessionaire, this is just my opinion, I don't think any concessionaire would want to do that once we do open up. Because if we open in November as planned, we are in our season, which is also their peak season. We've heard the numbers, Commissioner, I think that 70% is pretty darn accurate that you gave, and of non-member revenue through the clubhouse. We do about 50,000 rounds of golf there. That's not 50,000 different people, but it's 50,000 rounds that we deliver as potential customers through that clubhouse. There will be none of that during the construction. So it's outside people, homeowners, non-golfers that would utilize the restaurant. And I don't think any concessionaire coming in would want to lose any of that money starting in November if they were then forced to do construction then, rather than over the slow time, which is the summertime, and while we are closed for construction. So while I recognize many people want to use the meeting facility, I think for a temporary fix, there are other meeting facilities in the area that maybe we can acquaint them with or grease the skids a little bit to help them out to get there. I'll certainly do my part. But it's just my opinion that we have something that would flow much smoother if we weren't trying to do two things rather than one thing.
Well, it sounds to me, I think the biggest concern is what do we do with the groups, you know, and how are they going to deal with that? Which is something that Commissioner Gao expressed. We all jumped on and said we were concerned. I know Commissioner Walker mentioned it. I think we all agree that we're concerned with that. So I think the best thing to do is, again, with the RFP scope and all of that, I think coming back with an idea, like what Commissioner Franny just said. Hey, we're going to offer up, you know, for free use for those groups that are already there at such and such a place. I mean, they pay for their breakfast or lunch or whatever anyway. So we can provide them with caterers. We've got marguerites. We've got any number of, you know, in the area. So it's just a different location until they come back. I think, but whatever it is, I'm not going to say what the plan is. I'm looking, I think we as a collective group are looking at all of you, our team members here, to tell us what are we going to recommend to these groups and how are we going to communicate that with them, and how it won't, what's the word? It won't be cumbersome for them. They don't have to just say, oh my God, what are we going to do? Here's what you're going to do, you know? And because that's going to encourage them to come back, you know? So is that something you all can do? You can bring that plan when you bring the scope for the restaurant tour?
We're happy to do that, yes.
I mean, that at least addresses, and certainly you can ask the restaurateurs. I tend to agree with Blair, but you can certainly ask them those questions about open or closed.
We will, yes.
You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and dates of renovations and so on and so forth. So they'll have, at that time, when we do walkthroughs with this RFP with the concessionaires, they'll have a full picture of what construction means, renovation on the golf course, and a full picture of what the condition is of the kitchen and the clubhouse itself. And then the city commission would choose a successful proposer.
Okay. Is everybody at least okay with that next step? I'm looking for nodding heads.
Yeah,
Something?
no, I totally understand.
Yes?
When is this going to occur?
So we're drafting the RFP over the summertime. You want to, Vince, talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, we'd like to have the RFP out by October.
Oh, that's not early enough. Sorry.
No, we'd
I'm
like
jumping
to-
into operations, but that's definitely not early
We can
enough.
move that up a little bit.
Yeah.
So that we could, well, the whole point of the October date, or even a little sooner, is to have them have a good run at it when it is closed, because that was the former
Right.
direction, and so that
But
they'd
then
be ready
you
to
have
go.
holidays.
Right.
So, I mean,
On
that thing
February
needs to be
29th.
out early.
We can do it a little bit earlier. We
Yeah,
can.
I mean, if we back it up, we want to have someone in there to start transitioning on March the 1st.
No,
So
I
that's right.
agree, but they need to have time to do renovations. That's what I'm saying. It's not early enough. I mean, I thought we talked about early in the
Summer.
summertime that we
Right.
could get it, because, you know,
The time for the-
contractors are not just readily available. It takes time to do all this stuff, as you know, in today's world.
Right.
just ordering a walk-in cooler might, I mean, you saw what we went through with
So
our elevator.
That was
Just saying.
That was formally the timeframe, and we can, I know you talked to
Yeah,
staff
yeah.
about backing that up a little bit, yeah.
So that way, I mean, and we also want to be able to communicate with these groups as soon as possible so that they're making their plans, because they're making calendars for the new year, they're communicating with their people. I mean, if they're closing,
We will talk to them.
you see what I'm saying? If they're closing February, they're going to want to they're going to want to know what they're doing quickly.
Yes.
Okay.
So for clarification, which RFP? Is that for the restaurant?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Does everybody?
It closes March 1st.
February 29th.
February
2024.
29th.
Okay.
It's a leap year.
Is that supposed to be like some kind of good luck thing?
I know.
Tell me
Let's
that it
hope
is.
so. Let's hope so.
My desire continues to have the club open during the summer period for people to utilize. It's an asset.
Okay.
So,
All right. I didn't see any other emails about commission discussion items. Okay. City Clerk?
Mayor, the only thing that I just wanted to let everyone know, on that proposed agenda that we just did for June 20th, I just wanted to let you know that the deputy clerk and myself will actually be at the Florida Association of City Clerks Summer Conference that day. So Catherine will be sitting in the clerk spot at that next work session. So I just wanted to give everybody a heads up. So when you see Catherine, be nice and be...
Speaking of your office, I sent this to somebody, but I didn't see anybody respond. I think it might have been Teresa. You know, there is a little retirement gathering for one of your...
Yes.
Correct, on June
And
12th.
it's on the day that we're all in Toronto, and I would really like to see that change, because we can't not...
The retiree does not want to change it.
She loves us, but
Yeah, it's her last day, and she wants it to it's odd for her to schedule early and then come back to work. So,
Gotcha.
yeah.
she's
That is-
probably
that
gonna
is
say
awkward.
something about
What's that
us.
date?
It's her last day. She's on June
Janice.
30th.
Yeah.
Janice,
I was going to talk.
30-some
do
years.
we have a meeting?
We do not. I was going to announce, like at that 22nd, I'll be at the Thursday night meeting on the 22nd, so during that, at the end, I was going to make sure that we announced her retirement so that everybody is aware, but that 30th is what we've scheduled for.
Can
her
we,
to-
given the fact that we cannot attend, I mean, most of us, can we have her come to that meeting? So we can
If
at
she'll
least say...
come, sure. I know that
So that we can at least say something?
she's not a big attention.
No, I know
person,
that.
so, yeah.
I know
She may
Janice
turn
well.
us down.
But I mean,
Yeah.
I just think, given the fact that we may not, you know, several of us may not be able to be there, I don't think we can let that go.
Yep, I will look into.
And I mean, we haven't had, I'm not trying to do something special for Janice over other employees. We have not had that situation that I'm aware of in the past, where, you know, a number of us are not going to be there, including the city manager, you know, so.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll-
Janice, you're invited, like it or not.
Yeah, she still can say no.
Yeah, I'm asking you not to, honey, please. Okay, city manager update?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners, Juneteenth is closing in on us. And as you recall, every year for Juneteenth, you have allowed us to close our doors and hold community events, or events that are of service to the community. This year, our theme is Commitment to the Community, Everyone is Welcome, on June 15th. And you may note that is not Juneteenth. Juneteenth is June 19th, but that's a Thursday before Juneteenth. It's the day that we have the most employees in the office or in the field. And so we are planning lots of really interesting events. First of all, we're doing a community service project. So all of our employees will be out in the community if they're able. Certainly fire rescue is not able. Our summer camps will remain in place. But the others, we're doing a causeway cleanup. We're doing a Habitat for Humanity. We have several employees going to Random Acts of Flowers. We have a big library cleanup going on, and that includes all the little libraries. So the library will be closed, but the employees will be in the library doing cleanup that they're not normally able to do, and also maintaining all of our little libraries and lots of other really community-oriented projects. And then we're going to have lunch together. We are going to have food trucks along Loudon, so we're going to close Loudon because there's going to be a lot of traffic to and fro. There's usually only about 2 or 3 cars per day on that during the afternoon. And then we're going to get together and we'll have speakers in the afternoon to talk about diversity within our workforce, and then everybody will go home. So I just want to thank all of you for allowing us to have this Community in Service Day. It's really a chance for our employees to meet and greet each other outside of their usual workplace. Last year we found it to be very beneficial for all of us, and we're looking forward to the same this year. And of course, all of you are invited to join us, even for ice cream later on in the day. And then on the day of Juneteenth, we're going to have the plaque dedication of the area where our African American population used to meet under the tree. So that's, I think, 10 o'clock. Should be on your calendars, but we'll be doing that on Juneteenth. And then in the evening, we're going to have a Juneteenth celebration as well. So lots going on in regards to Juneteenth, and I'll leave it up to all of you then to talk about Pride if need be. So thank you very much. I figured.
Do we have that agenda? Has that been sent out, that agenda?
It has not, because we have a committee of employees putting the event together, and they're just solidifying some of these last events.
And we didn't attend that. That was really an employee thing.
A few of you were in and out last year.
Okay.
And you're more than welcome to do the same this year. It's up to you. Yeah.
I just figured they didn't want us around.
We'd love to have you around.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Suck up.
You say that. Some
Yeah,
of
they
them are like,
don't.
yeah, please.
No, but
Well,
but there's a public event
We don't want
that
to
we
inhibit.
can attend that's on Friday, I think, Friday?
Yes.
6 to 9.
Yeah, right before the Pride event.
Yes.
So that could be an interesting day.
Yes.
Okey doke. Jennifer Cowan. You're
Cowan.
given a, huh?
I'm not going to say it.
I didn't say it.
I know.
You are going to give us our legislative update.
So, yes, Mayor, thank you very much. Actually, this isn't a comprehensive legislative update because
No, I
there
know.
were a bunch of bills, but I did look at a few that I wanted to draw your attention to. So I have 5 bills that have passed and already been signed into law by the governor that I wanted to go over. I have probably 3 or 4 ones that are pending that we can talk about, and of course, if there's a specific bill you want to see or you have any questions.
Just the ones that are urgent
Yeah.
that we need to know about now.
So one that you should be very well aware of was Senate Bill 774. This is the bill that made it so that all municipal mayors and elected members of the municipal body now file a Form 6 as opposed to a Form 1. So to kind of identify what the difference in that is, Form 1, you identify the institutions where you had assets and liabilities but not the amount. In a Form 6, you're going to have to report your net worth, and you'll have to report where each of your assets or liabilities, what the value is and where they're held, if they're over $1,000.
I'm laughing because I don't think my Form 6 is going to look much different than my other form. I'm just saying, but I, never mind.
So, and that goes into and that goes into effect on January 1st of 2024.
Oh, January 1st, okay. And hang on a minute, Rebecca, how are we all on our forms that were due by, I don't know, May something, July 1st, I think is the deadline?
July 3rd, I think.
Have we all turned our stuff in?
No?
I don't remember. I usually do it at the beginning of the year. Have I turned it in? Okay, are you going to send us something? We look to you to
Sheriff,
do
you're going to
that.
send the sheriff to you for
No,
not
we look to you to remind us of these things.
Yeah.
Yeah, but usually I do mine in like February. I mean, I don't know why, but I haven't. Okay, will you please, and then send us all I always ask you this, but I'll just ask you to do it for everybody. Send us all our last year's.
You were able to send an editable PDF too, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that we can look at it, because if there is no change, then we can just get somebody
Well,
to
the nice thing is, if it's
fill
an
it all
editable
out.
PDF, you don't have to fill out the one you got in the mail. You just
Right, exactly.
Right.
Okay.
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 Can I ask a question about the new one? when it says it's effective, because actually, City Clerk and I talked about this, when it says it's effective January 1, 2024, does that start the reporting period, or does that actually require a report on the prior year? You follow me?
You'll still file at the same time that they haven't changed the deadlines, so your filing deadlines are still the same.
Okay.
It's just the form that you would get in 2024 will not be a Form 1. it'll be a Form
So when
6.
we are filing
Okay.
deadlines hit for 2024, we're going to have to do the new form versus the old.
And does this apply to people that work for the city that have to file financials?
No,
Only elected officials?
only municipal mayors.
Okay, we
city
make nothing.
commissioners,
She
if
makes
that.
$1 million, and I'm so kidding, which, compared to us, she makes the big bucks, and she doesn't have to fill out that form. That makes so much sense.
It's not $1 million.
No, I'm teasing.
Yeah, I agree. Of course, we don't need one more thing to discourage professionals from getting into the field. And quite frankly, we don't need one more thing to discourage local government people from getting into the field. You know, it's unfortunate, I believe. I mean, I have nothing to hide. I'm happy. I would do it no matter what, you know. But I think I've already heard from some people who had thought about running. They're not going to run. They feel it's too intrusive. They're happy to put down everything that they deal with that would be a conflict in terms of the name of the group. I mean, I know this is the law. I'm just saying, I think
It's ridiculous.
I think that what's going to happen is we are going to, local government will lose good people, and nobody gets rich in local government. They do it for civic, and they're going to be, it's too intrusive. So, and it doesn't really have the value of, we already have the value of knowing what conflicts we potentially have. We already have to report that. So I do think it's, I just think, you know, it's going to be hard to measure the loss of the people that just won't want to, you know,
Yeah.
basically put that out there. So anyway, but it is what it is, so.
Okay, Jennifer?
Okay, the next bill deals with elections, and it's Senate Bill 7050. There are a bunch of changes in here, numerous changes made to the election law, but with regard to local government position, basically there was a change for the notice of a special election or a referendum. Previously it was in the newspaper, now it will allow you to be published on the county's website, municipal website, and supervisor of elections website.
Oh, that's good.
There is a preemption in here that preempts local governments from enacting any kind of campaign finance reporting schedule that's different than what's required by law. So previously, your campaign finance reporting had to be done monthly, and now they've shifted it to quarterly. And they also preempted the local government from making, you can't go back and say, well, we'll make ours monthly. You follow what theirs is.
Okay, so is that, when quarterly, does that also include those last couple of weeks, the last month of the election, where you have to do it weekly?
I don't know. I'll have to look at a specific situation.
Okay.
and see.
Rebecca?
No, it does not include those. It's still, it's more for those who start early.
Yeah.
Then instead of having to do it every month, a year and a half out, it goes to quarterly, but it did not change the days. I believe it was 60 days before that we go to weekly. I'm just going off memory here. Those days did not change.
Can you kind of send us something, a summary of that?
Absolutely.
Because I know we're all talking to a lot of people that are thinking about running. I know all of us, and then there are a few that will be running, sitting on our dais. So I
And I'm in the process of updating for the
The
next
book.
election, the book.
The
And
book.
so that will have all the updated information in it as well.
Okay, thank you.
What did we say the effective date on that was? Is that pretty much immediate, or?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah.
July 1st?
I believe it's July 1st.
1st, that's not immediate.
Okay, the next bill, and this one I'm going to give a real high-level overview because
Okay.
it is 95 pages.
Oh, geez.
And this is the Live Local Act. So basically, this bill was dealing with affordable and workforce housing throughout Florida. So some of the preemptions that were included in this bill is that the cities will no longer be able to adopt ordinances that impose rent control, that now there is, the municipalities may regulate affordable housing development, but they have to do it in a very comprehensive way. And it makes it so that a city that designates less than 20% of its land for commercial or industrial must propose a multifamily development under the amended statute only if it's mixed use. It removes let me see, cities are also authorized to propose multifamily and mixed-use residential projects as an allowable use in any area zoned commercial, industrial, and mixed use under certain circumstances. A city cannot require a proposed multifamily development unit to obtain land use change, special exemption, conditional use approvals, variances, or comprehensive plan amendment for building height, zoning, and densities.
Wait, say that again?
A city may not require a proposed multifamily development to obtain a land use change, special exception, conditional use approval, variance, or comprehensive plan amendment for building height, zoning, and densities.
If it includes affordable housing, is that what you're saying? Okay.
If it includes
I thought you were
multifamily.
saying just in general. That's what
No.
I was having a panic on.
No.
Okay.
And you can't restrict the density of any authorized development below its highest allowed density where residential development is allowed. The city may not restrict height of an authorized development below the highest height that's allowed for commercial or residential development located within the city within 1 mile of the proposed development or 3 stories, whichever is higher. An authorized development must be administratively approved with no further action being required by the city, provided that the development meets the land development regulations for a multifamily development in the zoned areas and is otherwise consistent with the comp plan.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
The amendment requires affordable housing held by a dependent special district like a CRA to be included in the city's inventory list of city property deemed appropriate for affordable housing. And you have to keep this list of affordable housing on your website.
So that's probably the most important thing we just heard. That's for immediate, not.
Then I believe there's also a provision in here in the statute that will allow cities to adopt ordinances exempting portions of the property from property taxes if they're being used as affordable housing.
Wait, say that again?
The statute allows cities to adopt an ordinance that would exempt portions of the property from property taxes if they are used for affordable housing.
We could have done it anyway.
Huh? Just, you could have done
Gotcha.
it. Okay, and then they also have certain criteria that the property has to meet in order to do that, but I'm not going through all that.
No.
And then,
So essentially on that whole affordable housing thing, I mean, obviously, I think we need an analysis by Bob as well. Legal side, Bob, George, Jennifer, you know, if you all get in a room and kind of talk about it and give us an analysis, that would be a great workshop item to understand how does this change anything we're working on, but B, how does it affect us? Especially this list, you know, but all those other things, they all sound very scary.
and then they also have that you're required for, with regard to the timing on your permit applications for local governments, to maintain on your website a policy containing all the procedures and expectations for expedited processing of those building permits and development orders that are required.
For affordable housing or all?
Just for those that are required by law to be expedited.
We have that in our toolkit, so that's good, yeah.
So that's that half.
Yeah. Okay.
Another two I'll go through real quick. This is also law. It's entitled, or it's Senate Bill 540. And while this bill provides language to allow a prevailing party in a challenge to a comp plan, whether they're challenging or defending a comp plan or comp plan amendment, to be able to recover reasonable attorney's fees and costs if they're successful. The next item is Senate Bill 528, and this bill prohibits employees of governmental entities from downloading or accessing prohibited applications on government-issued devices.
Say it again?
The bill prohibits employees of government entities from downloading or accessing prohibited applications on your government-issued devices.
What's identifying,
Like TikTok.
Like
what's
TikTok,
prohibited?
like TikTok, WeChat. There's actually, the DMS, Department of Management Services, is going to compile a complete list of those prohibited applications, and they'll publish it on their website.
So, what,
And they're, the
well,
only,
now I'm panicking. I got all kinds of apps on my iPad and my phone.
Yeah, I think.
Well,
this is
no,
a-
but they didn't buy, my phone is my own phone. But the iPad is, I mean, it's the same apps that are on my phone, because they talk to each other.
yeah, and that'll be prohibited.
Well, I mean, I don't know what it is. I don't have TikTok.
I think that is in response primarily to TikTok.
Yeah, because I don't have TikTok.
Dialogue.
And
I don't care about TikTok.
And there are limited exemptions for this, like it doesn't apply to law enforcement officers if they need those applications in order to be able for public safety or to conduct an investigation.
So you're going to get us a list of what these things are?
Once DMS publishes it.
Who's DMS?
Department of Management Services.
And employees and elected officials, are this treated the same? Because sometimes they're not, that's why I'm asking.
Employees of government entities.
Are we I mean, we're not even considered an employee, are we? Technically?
I'd have to look at whether or not how they define that, because it depends on what statute you're looking at.
Okay, so you'll get back to us on
I will.
that? Okay. Maybe it doesn't apply.
Okay, and so those are the ones that are currently law now, as we sit here. There are many other bills, they've been passed, but the governor, to my knowledge, has not yet signed them. One is Senate Bill 170. You may have already heard about this one. This is the one where it requires a municipality to prepare a business impact estimate before adopting an ordinance, and it specifies the minimum content that must be included in that statement. However, there is a large list of exemptions of ordinances that doesn't have to happen for. I won't go through the whole list, but some of them are the ones that are dealing with your land development regulations, your zoning ordinances, your development agreements, your budgets, items of procurement, emergency ordinances. So there's a whole litany that it doesn't cover.
What kind of things does it cover then?
And it doesn't cover like your bonds, your refinancing of debt, or any of that.
Like we passed a noise ordinance. I'm using that as an example.
I think your noise is your noise.
We have a noise
in
ordinance.
your
I'm just
land
saying if we were,
development regulations. Yeah, if it's part of your land development regulations.
oh,
then
that's right. It
that's
is a part of our
exempt.
land development. Okay.
So, we'd have to, I mean,
Because, I
we'd
mean,
have to look at what
yeah.
comes up, and then we'll find out whether or not it fits in any of those exemptions. And I anticipate that to the extent it does, that will be recorded. My hope is to put that in every single one of your ordinances. So if there's ever a question, it's pointed back to that statute.
Yeah, because it would be interesting to understand what is actually affected versus what isn't. Okay.
And then the bill also requires that if the ordinance is challenged, the municipality suspend enforcement of that ordinance until the action challenging it
That could
resolves.
take years.
And the grounds in which you can challenge the ordinance is that it is arbitrary, it's unreasonable, or it's expressly preempted by law.
But who decides that?
Well, there will be an allegation of it, and the judge will determine whether or not that allegation is correct.
Okay, so that usually happens in the beginning, before it moves forward, right?
It could, I would,
I mean, that's not 3 years down the road, is what I'm saying.
it could be. I mean, I can't tell you that it can't be. I mean, I imagine one of the first things that would happen if this was litigated is someone would say, you haven't met the criteria here, and move to dismiss. And whether or not they determine, they can make that determination based on the four corners, but if it's properly pled, they'll let it go through and you'll litigate it. And this
That's a problem.
Oh, well, and the way that the law was written before this last legislative session is there was an ability to challenge with regard to something that was expressly preempted. But this has broadened it to anything that is arbitrary or unreasonable. Also.
Okay, so
Oh, sorry.
can can we or should we be saying something to the governor before he signs this bill? If he hasn't signed it yet, should we be sending him saying the preemption thing is totally, I get that. It's preempted. But why would you, if you add this, it could hinder our ability to govern. I mean, that is why I wanted to hurry up and address some of these things. Should we be communicating with the governor on this? Anybody?
I think we should.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think we should too. So you'll talk to Natalie? Nicole, sorry.
Yeah.
I had N in my mind. So.
We'll need to, we're going to work with Jennifer, we'll draft up a letter.
Something, yeah, I don't know what to say, but I mean,
If we're directed.
arbitrary, what's the words? Arbitrary and
Capricious.
Unreasonable.
unreasonable? Let's just face it. Who decides that and how long will that take? And that's a point that we need to make. And everybody's opinion of arbitrary and unreasonable is completely different. That's why you have elected officials determining this stuff. Okay, yeah, we definitely got to say something to the government. You know, I'm not saying it'll do any good, but we shouldn't.
Should try.
Should try.
And so if the municipality prevails in the civil action, then you'll be able to enforce your ordinance unless the plaintiff appeals. And if they appeal that decision.
Yeah, then it keeps going, and that needs to be part of our letter.
Well, if they appeal the decision, they would have to get a stay of enforcement. So it makes it a little bit more onerous on them.
Yeah, but they should need to get a stay of enforcement in the beginning. And maybe we need to say that too. If you're going to sign this, they need to go get a stay of enforcement, which means then the judge has to look at it immediately, right?
Well, yeah, they could file for an injunction.
Yeah, versus letting it go through the system 2-3 years later.
Right. The bill also authorizes the award of attorney's fees, costs, and damages to a prevailing party in any civil action that's commenced after October 1st of this year.
Well, I'm okay with
The
that.
attorney's fees, costs, and damages are capped at $50,000. It does require the court to expedite these cases, and let me see. Oh, and then one thing on this bill, and so this was something that was added in and is actually beneficial to the government, is that I think you all got a memo from me probably in January or February with regard to a case that had come back out with regard to noticing and whether or not you could continue a public hearing or whether or not you had to go back and renotice it. Well, they took care of that in this bill, and it clarified that the notice and publication of the ordinances, as long as that notice, it may be continued to a subsequent meeting so long as the date, the time, and the place of the subsequent meeting is publicly stated. So, and the provision is retroactive. So that way, if there was an issue that had happened before, it's cleaned up in this bill. So I think that's part of why, I know in speaking with some of the folks at the Florida League of Cities, they felt like, you know, they'd gotten, this bill had come out last session. They got all the exemptions put in, or as many as they could with regard to ordinances. So they felt like it was a better bill. Then the language came, you know, back in, expanding it from just preemption to arbitrary and reasonable, putting all the attorney's fees, but they got a cap in. And then they also changed the noticing. So it's kind of a mixed bag. Just so you know, going forward, if we're advocating to the governor on a particular position. The next bill is that Senate Bill 1604, and this dealt with land use and development regulations. It revises and amends a variety of elements in comprehensive planning, as well as the methodology that's used. But more significantly, and why you're likely to hear about this, is the bill also prohibits the formation of any kind of new design review board unless it was established prior to January 1st, I think it was 2020. So,
And ours was, right?
Mm-hmm. And the ability of local governments to require certain design elements on single-family or two-family dwellings located in either a PUD or a master plan community.
PUD,
I'm sorry,
planned-
planned unit development or a master planned community, it removed your provisions to be able to do that, unless, of course, you had a design review board that was prior to January 2023. So I know a lot of governments don't necessarily have that. I know you all do.
Thank God we do.
So,
Thank you, Deborah.
and then last two,
Jennifer.
very quickly, and I don't know if this is beneficial or not from a practical standpoint, but the water and wastewater facility operators, that they passed a bill now that allows water and wastewater facility operators who have licensing in other states to get a reciprocal license basically here and be able to to work in that capacity. And they have criteria on who they'll issue that automatic reciprocal license to. So,
That'll help our recruitment.
well, I was going to say that I know there are a lot of government entities that are looking for these positions right now, and it's challenging to find folks, so maybe this is beneficial. And then House Bill 657, enforcement of school zone speed limits. It authorizes the local government to place or install an automatic speed detection system under its jurisdiction or on a state road when permitted by FDOT to be used solely for the enforcement of speed limits in school zones.
So that's like a red light camera, but for school zones? Or is it something like a flasher? It tells you how fast.
I think it's more of a detection system than, but you can do, I say that, but I think that there must be some citation methods on that, and I only say that because they have you go through a 30-day public awareness campaign before you start enforcing.
Well, we probably want to talk to the sheriff's department as to what that is. I'm not a big fan of red light cameras, so I probably wouldn't be a big fan of this, but we should probably, I'm just saying to Jennifer, that Jennifer Bramley, that conversation should probably be had. As
And
to,
that would come through local municipalities or the county, not through the school system. Is
Correct.
it does now, like the flashers that say the 15 mile
that come
an
through
hour.
the city?
We put that, if it's a city street, we're the ones that create the zone. Yeah. Now, you're on the school safety
Right.
committee. That's where we talked about having everybody doing the same markings, the same signage, and the same speed.
Right.
I think Clearwater's the only one that goes off script.
And then this doesn't affect
St.
any
Pete too, maybe, but.
directly, but there were other bills just about other local governments that you might be interested in. They were, there was a bill passed with regard to the MPOs, and they're doing certain studies to see whether or not some of the MPOs can be combined.
Regionalized.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Yes,
then,
I know.
and then also, they've dissolved T-BARTA.
Yeah.
So those were a few of the bills that I wanted to bring to your attention.
Okay, anybody have any other things for?
Anything on fertilizer?
Oh, yeah, the fertilizer.
That's my next item.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
So my next item is the fertilizer ordinance. When we were last here, it was brought up based on an article in the St. Petersburg Times that the legislature had passed Senate Bill 2502 as part of the budget that prohibited local governments from adopting or amending a fertilizer management ordinance. And
Prohibits. Was there a reason why?
they had funded a study that they wanted completed, I guess, before additional ordinances are adopted or the current ones are amended.
So it's a temporary.
Yes.
Gotcha.
It's the prohibition on adoption amendment runs from July 1st of 2023 to July 1st of 2024, or June
Gotcha.
30th, I should say, of 2024.
But we already fall under the county.
So, yes.
So we're good.
Yes, and the question was whether or not you all wanted to adopt your own and before July 1st. And if you wanted to, it may be possible. It would require, of course, a special meeting in order to be able to get enough days in and to have the second reading. But I do want to talk to you about a few issues with that, because you could not just adopt Pinellas County's ordinance, which was what the initial thought was, could we just do theirs, and that way if theirs ever goes away, we still have ours. And you couldn't do that. And the reason why is because Pinellas County adopted theirs, I think, in like 2009 or 2010.
Oh, I remember hearing about it.
And at that time, when you're dealing with fertilizers, they have a model ordinance that's adopted by statute, and so they use the one that was in place at that time. That has changed, and so you would be required, if you were adopting one, to adopt the model ordinance.
That's today.
That was revised, I think it came out in 2015.
Wow.
The significance of that is there are several items that Pinellas County regulates that you could no longer pass an ordinance to regulate because you may be preempted by other statutes. For instance, they have a regulation on the sale of fertilizer. If you adopted an ordinance, you could not regulate that. That has been preempted.
Well, and I don't know that they're actually regulating it, but.
And then the other thing that I believe Pinellas County did when they adopted it is so you can adopt the model ordinance, but if you want anything more stringent than that, you have to go through this process where you basically address non-point source nutrient pollution based on scientific evidence and determine the science, the economics, and the technical feasibility of how these more stringent standards would affect that non-point source nutrient pollution. And the documentation, you have to have significant documentation of all relevant science information. You have to provide that to the Department of Agriculture, the University of Florida, and kind of prove up this higher standard that you want to do. I think Pinellas County went through all that when they adopted theirs. Again, you couldn't adopt a more stringent standard. You would be relegated to adopting whatever the 2015 new model ordinance is, because you just wouldn't have time to do all those submissions. Now you could later amend it, you know, and produce all that, but you wouldn't be able to amend it until 2024 after.
So who's doing this study? Is the state, like the DEP, or?
You know, I want to say that they're paired up with University of Florida, because I know University of Florida had done their initial studies, and they're the ones that they point to with regard to if you want these more stringent standards. So I believe they're the ones doing the study, but I can.
Because I got to tell you, I mean, it would be better if it was a statewide ordinance, because that way everybody from county to county to county knows what the rules are. It's one of those things that would be better served if it was statewide. I'm not saying that's what their intent is, but I mean, why would they do a study if that wasn't their intent? Just to mess with us? I mean, that seems silly, but who knows?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and I certainly can't speak as an expert on this, but my thought would be is if it's statewide, you know, the state of Florida is so complex in its living space, that whether it's agriculture or urban living, you know, that I don't want to necessarily impact areas that are truly agriculture with our, no, I think that's right, and we should, but that's a different animal.
But if there's zone, they could say, I mean, not.
So, right, different zones would have different
If you're zoned
requirements.
agricultural, we're ignoring you right now. Go ahead and do your thing, and we'll figure you out later.
And I think the agricultural lobbyists, you know.
They'll be fine with that.
Well, they're all over Tallahassee, so I think they're the ones that are probably driving this. You know, that and the fertilizer, you know, Mosaic is, I'm sure, all over this. We're losing revenue, we want to increase our, you know, fertilizer.
Okay.
It's all businesses driving this.
So the agricultural is an exemption under the ordinances already. It's prescribed.
Well, there you go.
So,
good.
But, so I just kind of in summary, before we moved forward with drafting anything, I just needed to hear from you all whether or not you wanted to move forward, and I wanted to just identify kind of 3 quick hits, which is one, understanding that you absolutely can move forward. We have to set a special meeting. However, that your ordinance would be significantly less restrictive than Pinellas County's, just because of the laws that you're held to now.
I'm looking at you
because
you're the one that brought this forward. So,
and so if we do move forward with this and it's less stringent.
Yes.
How does it help us?
Well, right, that negates the whole purpose of having one. And the purpose of this bill, right, was only during the study period. is we have to trust the county is going to leave theirs alone for another year,
I would only assume that.
right? That,
Well,
and so if,
they can't, I mean, they will be
They can't.
prohibited from doing anything with theirs for that
Right,
year
right.
as well,
Either way.
yeah.
and so, right, so I don't see the
The
purpose.
benefit, there's no benefit.
Right, that's a whole lot of work for a negative impact.
Especially if we get especially if we get grandfathered. If we get grandfathered and we go to a less restrictive ordinance, we don't want that to be what's grandfathered. Like if they do this study and they say, okay, whatever you have today is what but future things have to be such and such.
Right, but the grandfathering was only for this study period, if I'm understanding this bill correctly. So after they've done their study, all bets are off, we're all back to, we can do what we want.
I don't know.
You know, and so it would only be the results of that study on what the state's next steps are.
Right.
Correct.
I'm just saying, if whatever the study says and the bill they create from what they see in the study has grandfathering in later down the road, we wouldn't want a less restrictive ordinance at this moment.
Right, that's right for the next year, but I'm just
Right.
trying to think 5 years out.
Well, that's what I'm thinking
What-
of too.
You know, if the county does away with theirs, right? And I know these are worst-case scenarios, right? If the county does away with theirs or makes it a lot less stringent than whatever we would create now. Now, I just want to make sure that Dunedin is positioned in the best position it can be to protect the residents and our stormwater outflows.
Is it because it exists under the county that it's automatically ours? Like, is it in our books anywhere?
No, so it's a county ordinance that applies to every municipality. I mean,
Right.
all the land in Pinellas County. I will say, though, in the county ordinance, it says that it applies to all municipalities unless
they opt out.
They've adopted their own that's in conflict with this. And so the question is, if you adopt
So you
your own
can't
and we
even-
can't do the exact same thing, is there going to be some argument that what you've adopted is in conflict with theirs, and so therefore you actually are less protected than if you were operating under theirs?
No, when was the grandfather date for this bill?
They
Like
just
June
said-
30th? Was
They
that it?
just said as of July 1st.
July 1st.
You cannot adopt or amend an ordinance.
So is there any concern that they go through this study and it's a year now later, 2 years by the time 3 years later, that all of a sudden they still choose, they want to do something with an ordinance for fertilizer, but they want to keep with that July 1st, 2023 grandfather date?
That absolutely could
You know, like they
happen.
did with short-term rentals.
Right.
Right, not that they went through this multiple gyration thing, but you had to have your short-term rental ordinance in.
But we would be grandfathered because we are underneath, and so would the county.
Right.
Well,
If they're
Right.
grandfathered, then we are grandfathered.
And it goes back to any new ordinance would be less restrictive.
Right.
So it
Right.
is a moot point regardless.
Right. If they're grandfathered, then we are automatically grandfathered.
You-
If we have nothing else on the books.
Right.
Well, yeah, you're under theirs.
Right.
Right.
So it's not that you could come in and then pass something. It
Right.
would be whatever they could do with their own. And then the other, I know I said I had.
Let me just say that,
Oh, sorry.
unless they're grandfathered and they change it, you know.
Then we're left out in
And
the
then we're left
wind.
out,
Right.
I mean, if the new thing is about grandfathering, then, you know, we follow whatever
I
they
guess
do.
that,
I mean, that's the rip.
right, if they change, right, the grandfather only exists if they don't change it, correct? So if they're grandfathered in
They're not
20.
going to change it.
I know.
They're not gonna
But
do that.
So,
I wouldn't think so. really.
it's not really,
I can't imagine.
at this
But
point,
fertilizer's a big deal.
yeah, at this point, a grandfathering hasn't come up. At this point, all they're saying is for this year, whatever's in place stays in place. We're just going to have a time period where nothing changes. Now, who knows what'll happen after that? They may say, and that's going to continue ad infinitum, or they could say, okay, now you're back at it, but under these new regulations.
Right. That's only my concern, is the state will keep the same grandfather date.
Yeah.
And we're still fine unless the county changes.
Right.
Right.
And then the last and final consideration was just, and this is one that the city would need to look into is from a practical standpoint, then you would be involved in the enforcement of whatever ordinance you passed. And so.
Oh, yeah, and that's a problem.
That's where I fell off the page.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's
Yeah,
huge.
and that's why we didn't,
Yeah.
that's exactly why we didn't do something different in the very beginning. Because, I mean, some of us were here, at least I was here when we passed this ordinance, and we got all kinds of, flack from, I'll call them pest control people, because they're usually the fertilizer people too, and lawn services and that kind of thing. But we went forward anyway because of the water quality and all those things that were happening. But the biggest thing is how do you, because they had that sale, it's like, how are we gonna go enforce Home Depot or Ace Hardware, or whatever else is in our city? Some of that is not in our
Yeah,
city, I'm just saying.
I think that's something
We don't
our
have
news
it.
commissioner would probably be assigned to, right?
Well, which is why we said that's a county thing. It should be the county, it should be them. And I don't think they're necessarily enforcing it anyway. I say that, I could be totally wrong. I mean, I think all the businesses, since it's what, 10 years old?
Yeah.
Is it 10 years old?
2009?
2009.
Yeah, so it's 13 years old or whatever it is. I mean, I think all the businesses know what the limitations are. I'm just saying I don't know that there's a heavy-handed enforcement going on. So I think they have the same problem we do, people. But,
So,
you good then?
is the consensus not?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
Okay. John, you good?
Oh, yeah.
You guys good?
I'm good, super good
Thank you
discussion
all.
though.
Thank
No, it was
You
a
gotta
good
think ahead.
discussion.
Yeah, very,
I think we're good. Leaving
Super
it
good.
alone.
Thank
I
you.
like that. Super good.
super good.
Anything else, Jennifer Cowan?
No, that was all that I had. Thank you.
Anything else for Jennifer? Any other questions for her? Okay. We'll come to commission comments. Vice Mayor, anything from your liaison? Commissioner Gao, anything for your liaison? We had a nice update from that.
We did.
Commissioner Franny?
Yeah, so I had a couple things. Yeah, this is all the follow-up comments.
Yeah,
right?
I
So-
gotta sign up for all my stuff.
Yeah,
still
so
haven't done
I
it
think
yet.
everybody's got on their calendars or has been given all the events for Pride Week. Obviously, as many as you can take part of, that's great, but there's a lot, so I understand you can't do everything.
Are there
I think-
any on there that you are absolutely want all 5 of us at?
So
that we should know
obviously, I think the gala is important if you can, but, that's also a pricey one.
Sure.
So understood. And the other one that I really wanted to bring out to everybody's attention is the golf cart parade. Because I consider the golf cart parade and the night at the Blue Jay Stadium, Pride Night at the Jay Stadium, the big, more community oriented. Everything else is privately located at restaurants. When I say private, everybody can go to it, everybody can sign up. But to me, it's, that's where you want to have your biggest punch. In a perfect world, I think we would have had it on Saturday. The original intent was for it to be on Saturday. We'll see how it goes. I think on Saturday, because obviously the golf cart parade is going to start earlier than some people are off work. So I just hope, we get enough traction.
That's fine. We will.
But the bottom line is, the shift was made because of, there was another group that I think was on the Saturday. And so we had to shift, the committee shifted back to Friday. And then there's fireworks that night, Friday night, which is great too. So I think, I would just emphasize, I think the gala and the golf cart parade and Toronto Blue Jays, and of course decorate your golf cart. And Sue, I think in that regard, since you're here, that's the one I think we should be in particular promoting ourselves, making sure that we're all over the time people need to be there, get signed up, everything to do with that. So that's great.
Are we riding together? Are we riding, everybody's just taking their own golf cart?
I don't actually know, but I can,
You'll let us
usually
know.
they take care, but I'll get that information and get it to Donna and she can get it to all you guys.
Do we have to buy tickets for that separately?
I think that,
The game we do, I think, right?
so, but I think Duke Energy is actually doing free tickets that night. I'll check on it, so I don't think there's any cost. We'll actually be up.
I really meant, is there anything we need to do, together or not together? Or
Yeah, no, I'll
same
make sure
difference.
Donna knows what
Yeah.
if you don't know, I'll make sure Donna gives you instructions, so.
And tickets were, I guess, my only question as well. Just from what I could read or understand, the only real ticket events are the gala and then maybe the baseball game. Everything else was pay when you get there.
So,
Honu?
Hanu.
Honu's a ticketed event.
That's a ticketed.
Is it a ticketed event?
It's like basically 20.
See, I know it was $20, but I'll go back and look. I thought I could not find a link.
Oh, well, the interesting, I mean, the only reason I know that is because Jeanette wanted a group to sit together, so.
Yeah, I think you have
she
to
bought
just
my-
have, I think you have
It
to
is
go.
ticketed?
I think you have to go to the restaurant. And the other one,
Okay.
Pisces, I believe, is, well, there's an entry fee. So again,
I gotta figure,
Right.
what's happening at Pisces?
Pisces is which should be kind of cool. It's a Pisces glow party, and that's on June 26th, which is a Monday night, and they, it
What's
says
the-
call for tickets.
What's
So do you
those?
guys,
Do we
did you
know
guys
what
get
the-
this from Donna?
Yeah.
Okay, that's got the detail on it, so, yeah, that's got the detail.
I get it, but then I just went to the website. I thought if I'm going to buy it, it's on the
And it tells you what you get for
website.
that, because that's a $55 entry fee. And, so you get a bunch of different things for that, so.
Okay.
But, it's, so do we have all the events advertised anywhere?
Everything, the link is on our event calendar.
Okay, good, so people can go right to it and it's all good, okay, great. So, yeah, I mean, what's kind of great about it is all the businesses see it as an opportunity to celebrate our diversity, but also, it's good for them. They can do something, and so you can feel kind of that energy of people teaming up and doing stuff, and even on Patricia, the bowling alley's doing an event for the first time, so.
Yeah, the only
I
bummer.
think that's kind of good to support, because it's Patricia Ave, we just kind of to give them some love, and.
The only bummer is the Fenway pool party's on Father's Day.
Yeah, and I know that they.
Listen,
Gotten
I've
that
told
comment, but-
anybody that I've told. That just counts me out completely. It really does. But, anyway.
Yeah, anyway. Secondarily, I did want to say, I just kind of wanted to make note that really a community contributor of the past passed away recently, like in the last week, Frances Fowler, if anyone knows her.
She did?
She did. She was heavily involved in the Youth Guild. She ran the scholarship. She was scholarship chair for them for years. She was the president of the Youth Guild 1998 to 2000. But again, she stayed involved in so much. She ran the kitchen for Holiday Tour Homes for years. So she was a big contributor to our community. I thought it was notable to bring it up today. I know that there's going to be a mass for her at Our Lady of Lourdes on June 19th, July 19th.
You'll give
sorry.
that information to Donna to put in our calendars?
Yeah, and then followed with an event at Mies Life. So, but, just awesome woman, strong woman, did a lot for Dunedin, so thought it was important to bring her up. And then the other thing is Thursday night, we have a Girl Scout troop coming.
Oh, cool.
And it's, I think there's going to be like 9 Girl Scouts. Some of them just flew up from being brownies. They're.
Make sure we have pins.
So the girls, they're actually coming at 4:30. We're going to do a tour and then kind of a Q&A. Anybody who, any of us who wants to come a little early and be part of that, absolutely welcome. But no matter what, and then after we do tour Q&As, we're going to come back in here and the city manager and I have not determined exactly how we're doing this. We're going to do kind of a mock thing where the kids get to sit.
Okay, I've
on
done
a
this,
table.
so talk to me.
Okay,
I
we'll
have
talk
done
to
this
you.
1,000
Yeah,
times.
trust me, we'll help.
Trust me, I've done it.
it.
I've totally done it.
And
Give her the pins, then, if she's doing it.
and so we'll do that, and then and the thought process with them coming at 4:30 didn't want to collide too much with our meeting, but we also want them to be at our meeting and be able to introduce them. And
how old are they?
I don't, the ages. I just know a lot of them have. Half of them, I think, have flown up from Brownie, so that kind of gives you, but I'm not sure the age group. I'll have to find out.
Because there is a city hall or election
I have it on a
coloring
different
book that we have somewhere. I can't tell you where it is, but we did.
I think they could be.
It's like Boy Scouts.
Yeah, I think they're probably older for that.
Oh, okay.
That's my guess, but I'll hone in on that.
Because what we used to do is get whatever tchotchkes. So sometimes Bob would have a cup and Parks and Rec would have a bag and whatever, and we would throw the coloring book and a pin and
That's what we, as a giveaway, whatever was available out there in overstock.
We
But
should
I don't
have
know,
that for
I don't know
on-
if we have that.
We should have that onboarding for the new commissioners, if they get a little coloring book and.
There you go.
Yeah,
Overstock.
we need it. But anyway, they're super excited, they're going for a badge, and this all worked out, so,
Let me leave the pledge.
yeah, that'd be awesome too, if they like the pledge.
I'll put that on the cheat sheet here.
That's cute, yeah, that's a
that
great
would be
idea.
cute.
Cool. Anyway, that's it, so.
We thought it might be fun to, because our little exercise we're going to do, we'll have them up here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we thought it might be fun if you all could come a little bit early and we could have them in the seat and you standing behind them.
That's this Thursday?
Sort of-
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
So we get a
So-
picture of them, yeah.
I'll just tell you right now what we used to do. I would create 3 questions, and they're like the impossible questions, to give them an example of a decision they need to make, right? And it would be like, okay, budget is tight. Do you keep the pool or the fire station? Like, that's an impossible thing. So I would come up with 2 or 3 of those questions. You probably don't have
like
those
that one.
records anymore.
I like that one too,
I
Taco
might,
Bell.
yeah, I might have them in my computer somewhere, but literally, I would give them like 3 questions, and it's just these impossible things. And I wanted them to understand how hard it is sometimes to make a decision, and that they would talk about it, and they would just raise their hand. It went by very quickly, but just to give them the quick idea.
I think they call it a Kobayashi Maru.
That's right. He's a Trekkie.
Did we want to put the one out there, what would you do first, a parking garage or a pool?
Oh,
Just
no,
kidding.
no, no,
Just
no,
kidding.
I'm
Anyway,
saying nothing.
just kidding, yeah, don't anybody say anything, I don't want to start World War. And that's it, thank you.
Okay, Rob.
Pram shed is down, the boat club is still standing, and the road around the western side of the boat club is still open, so.
Awesome. Okay, History Museum is still working on, hiring Vinnie's replacement. They have till the fall to do that, so Jennifer's participating in the interviews, just so you know. Not me, her, because she's got a lot more experience at that, even though I have a ton of experience at it too. I have to have, my cohort over there help me with that. And then the ferry issue, I don't even know how much I've even talked about it up here, but Clearwater is not moving forward with their agreement with the ferry. They're holding off so that we can come up with a tri-party agreement with the ferry that benefits all of us instead of just one municipality. So thank you, Jennifer, for your help in talking to the
We'll
city
have a meeting
manager in
scheduled
Clearwater.
next week, most likely,
Yeah.
Mayor, with Clearwater Ferry and the city.
And this is, again, all based on me sitting on the Waterborne Transportation Committee, Subcommittee, and Forward Pinellas. This is all stemming from that.
Yes.
But that's the latest update. And I think, really, those are the big things.
Yeah, so that's a positive move?
Yes,
Okay.
very positive. Much more positive than the last time I discussed it, if I even discussed it. And I'll just mention that I did speak with Rob, Commissioner Walker, and hooked him up with Jeanette to talk with them about, at Random Acts, to talk with them about Dunedin Cares.
Yeah, and
So-
I'll follow up on that today.
Yep.
About what?
Dunedin Cares and location.
Oh, yeah, good, that's great.
Well, they're moving out of their building
Yeah.
into a new building, but the building they're moving out of is available. It's got a walk-in cooler
Oh, that's awesome.
and a whole setup area, so it might be an option for them. We'll see, but at least it's something. That's all I have. Okay,
So, Mayor, after we adjourn, Sue can take a picture of our first ever meeting in our
Okay.
spots.
yeah, okay.
One's gone.
All right, so if nothing further, we will adjourn.
Thank you.
Come on, Sue.
Okay, Sue.
Hurry, hurry.